Seeing those lightning beasts, Yu Xiaoqian's heart clenched. The lightning beasts she had fought during her own tribulation gave her a profound understanding of how terrifying they were. The last one had been especially powerful, and even though there had only been one, if Long Chen hadn't told her its weaknesses, she wouldn't have been able to handle it. But these lightning beasts were packed together and endless. Because it was impossible to grasp their numbers, even knowing their weaknesses was useless. Just how were you supposed to take advantage of those weaknesses when they were packed together in such numbers? In front of this sea of beasts, any strategy, any technique would be useless and impossible to use. There was only one option: to use power to beat power. Long Chen's tribulation clouds had now joined with the other 4 experts' tribulation clouds to form a mass of supreme tribulation clouds. They were absolutely endless. As for the lightning beasts, they were like water spurting out of a broken dam. They poured down from the sky. Seeing Long Chen enveloped by the sea of lightning beasts, everyone's hearts rose into their throats. Yu Xiaoqian's palms were already covered in sweat. "Come out and gorge yourself." Long Chen laughed. A dragon roar suddenly rang out and a 3-mile-long lightning dragon appeared. Its huge body released a majestic aura. Lei Long's body had originally just been 1 mile long, but after absorbing the lightning tribulation, it had tripled in size. Its lightning runes were circulating with an even fiercer power. Long Chen jumped onto Lei Long's head. Lei Long once more roared, opening its mouth and beginning to devour the lightning beasts. There were too many lightning beasts, but to the huge Lei Long, they were nothing more than rabbits. With each mouthful, it devoured 5 or 6 of them. The most interesting thing was that the lightning beasts only had eyes for Long Chen. They didn't attack Lei Long, allowing it to devour them. They only knew how to struggle, but not to counterattack. Laws were laws. They weren't flexible. Lei Long came from heavenly tribulation, so these heavenly tribulation beasts didn't recognize it as an enemy. When the lightning beasts came charging at Long Chen, Lei Long would simply swing its tail, and they would be sent flying. In terms of power, these beasts were a far cry from Lei Long. Lei Long was like a dragon swimming through a sea, easily devouring the closest beasts. The lightning beasts were unable to approach Long Chen. Long Chen could just stand atop Lei Long's head and watch as the lightning beasts were devoured. He felt Lei Long's own power slowly increasing. The aboriginals' jaws all dropped. Their eyes almost popped out. If they weren't personally seeing this, they wouldn't believe it. Many people wanted to say something, but they found that no words were able to express their current thoughts. In the end, nothing came out of their mouths. Yu Xiaoqian looked up at the grand and majestic Long Chen with adoration. In this world where only strength was respected, the stronger the man, the greater their charm. That was especially true when this man had risked his life and was now settling a debt with mysterious experts for her. Long Chen was surrounded by countless lightning beasts, but the mysterious experts were also being attacked by countless lightning beasts. They could no longer remain as indifferent as before. People were unable to see their movements clearly because the divine flames around them blocked their sight. But in any case, those lightning beasts were all destroyed as soon as they got close to them. It seemed that they still had it extremely easy. Heavens! One of the aboriginals suddenly shouted, causing everyone else who was watching with rapt attention to jump. "What are you shouting for?" raged someone. "No, do you not notice something strange?" said that person. "Something strange? Fuck, how could I not notice this lightning tribulation is strange?" No, think about it. Long Chen's already in his lightning tribulation. He didn't expand his initial C yet. Hearing him say this, everyone fell silent, looking at each other. It seemed they had truly missed that detail. Could it be Long Chen really hadn't condensed his initial C before undergoing tribulation? Did he forget? They were speechless, but they really couldn't figure it out. Just who would possibly forget such an important step? Furthermore, if he hadn't condensed his initial C, how did he draw on the heavenly tribulation? What was going on? No one could explain it, not even Lord Heaven Eye or someone as learned as Yu Xiaoqian. Let alone them, even Long Chen couldn't understand. In any case, he knew one rule about the 9-star He Gem body art. As long as he passed his tribulation, he would definitely advance. Who cared about expanding the sea? 1 hour. 2 hours. 3 hours. Time passed bit by bit as Lei Long's body was growing larger and stronger. After a whole day had passed, it had grown to 7 miles. 7 miles. That was a huge monster. As Lei Long grew larger, its power increased and its devouring speed also multiplied. After this whole day, the lightning beasts finally stopped coming down from the sky, allowing people to relax. At this moment, Lei Long was still swimming through the air, devouring the few remaining lightning beasts. From the start until now, Long Chen hadn't done anything to resist the lightning tribulation. That easy manner of his made it look like he was just playing a game, not undergoing tribulation. Fool, using a devil item to absorb the heavenly tribulation is just an inferior cheating method. Ants really are ants, only capable of using the most contemptible tricks. Suddenly, a sneer came from one of the 4 experts. They had already killed all the lightning beasts around them, and it seemed that it hadn't taken any effort. Devil item? Long Chen sneered. He saw through some of their secrets. These 4 were wrapped in divine flames, and the flames should be their method to break through the spatial walls. While they were wrapped in them, others couldn't see their figures clearly, but the same issue could also be applied to their sight. They could only vaguely sense things, and so they thought Lei Long was a special tool used to trick the heavenly Daos. Where did you 4 bumpkins come from? Now that you've come here, you want to act grand? If you had any guts at all, you wouldn't hide in your tortoise shells. Come out and fight, sneered Long Chen. Right now, the first wave of the tribulation had just ended, and there was a bit of time to say a few words before the next wave came. Long Chen was very curious about their origins. Brazen ant. You don't have the qualifications to know our origins. You should bless your fortune that we're wrapped in these divine flames, otherwise, a single finger from this lord would crush you. Shouted one of them. Don't bother bragging. If it weren't for your tortoise shell, you would have had your crap crushed out of you when you broke into this world. Who do you think you're trying to trick? Although Long Chen didn't quite understand everything about them, he wasn't so easily tricked. These 4 had clearly used some kind of divine energy to break through the walls of this world. But even though the world's barrier had been broken, not just anyone could get through. At the very least, it wasn't something that mere Xian experts could survive. Although these people's auras were powerful, they were still undergoing their sea expansion tribulations. If it weren't for the protection of the divine flames, they would have been crushed by the power of spatial pressure upon breaking into this world. So Long Chen didn't fear them. "Ant, you're courting death," raged one of them. "Cowards. Wait until you grow up and come out of your shells before saying such vicious words," laughed Long Chen. Boom. Just at this moment, the tribulation clouds once more shook. Huge lightning beasts descended from the sky, each of them being a mile long. This time, there weren't that many, but there were still over 1,000 of them. They charged at Long Chen. These lightning beasts were on the same level as the final lightning beast that had appeared in Yu Xiaoqian's tribulation. But Yu Xiaoqian had only had to deal with one, while Long Chen had over 1,000 of them. Yu Xiaoqian was pale, and everyone else was also nervous. These lightning beasts were too terrifying. Boom. One of those lightning beasts had only just gotten close when Lei Long bit into it. It was too huge for Lei Long to devour in one bite. Furthermore, it was also struggling, making it so Lei Long couldn't smoothly swallow it. Just at this moment, another lightning beast charged at Long Chen. Its huge claw was the size of a small mountain as it smashed toward Long Chen. A blood-colored saber appeared in Long Chen's hands. A huge saber image whistled through the air. The huge lightning beast was cleanly cut in 2 by Long Chen's saber. This attack caused everyone to be dumbfounded. Long Chen hadn't used any battle skill. With just brute force, he had killed it. Lei Long spit it out. "Eat the one I killed," shouted Long Chen. Lei Long was trying to devour a lightning beast, but it was stuck in its throat and struggling. Lei Long wasn't able to swallow it. Hearing this, Lei Long spat it out and directly went to devour the lightning beast Long Chen had killed. But it was one step too late, and the lightning beast transformed into lightning runes that dissipated. Lei Long's fierce bite only managed to get a very small portion of those runes. "Don't worry. Work with me. Long Chen shouted and Blood Drinker began to rumble, its runes lighting. He charged at those lightning beasts. The huge lightning beasts were slashed apart by Long Chen one by one. Each one of them was killed in just one blow. Blood Drinker, you really are amazing. Long Chen was delighted by Blood Drinker. As long as he gave it the slightest bit of his spiritual yuan, Blood Drinker would release its specific sharp aura. The terrifying lightning beasts were easily cut down. Now Blood Drinker had truly awoken. Long Chen hadn't even known that it was so powerful before. Each bit of his spiritual yuan was being transformed into killing power. This weapon that had come from the barbarian race's expert was definitely extraordinary. As Long Chen killed the lightning beasts, Lei Long was behind him taking advantage. When they were cut down, before their runes could scatter, it would devour them in one gulp. These huge lightning beasts contained incomparably pure thunder force. If those previous lightning beasts were likened to rice, then these huge beasts were like meat to Lei Long. Long Chen swept through the air, blood-colored saber images flashing in the sky. Each attack killed a lightning beast. Sometimes there would be too many lightning beasts for Long Chen to handle, and Lei Long would swing its tail, knocking them back and giving Long Chen space. In this manner, Long Chen's dominance could not be stopped. It had been a long time since Long Chen had felt this satisfying feeling of using all his power to attack with a heavy weapon. Big Brother Long Chen is amazing, cried Xiao Fei. He had always treated Long Chen as his idol. He hoped to become a domineering expert like him one day. Who cared about heavenly tribulation? Who cared about the heavenly das? Even in front of heavenly tribulation, Long Chen wasn't afraid. He was fighting against the very heavens, forcing them to submit to him. The other experts were affected by his imposingness and clenched their fists, their own hot blood surging. They had been suppressed here by the heavenly Daos for countless years. Moreover, they had to face the scheming, robbing, and killing of the invaders. They had long since grown dissatisfied with this world. But they didn't have the bravery to fight against the heavens. They were dissatisfied, but they didn't dare fight. However, Long Chen's display showed them what a true domineeringness was. His domineeringness even caused those old seniors to feel a passion they hadn't felt in many, many years. Each lightning beast he killed was like another shackle he broke through. He advanced dauntlessly. I want to fight the heavens too. I'll exterminate these merciless and unfair heavenly Daos. Whatever tries to stop me, I'll cut them down. Suddenly, a young sea expansion expert began to shout. He came from the Stone Tribe, and he had drunk with Long Chen quite a few times. His eyes were red, and he charged out, startling everyone. That person had only just flown out when the Stone Tribe's leader slapped the back of his head, making him collapse on the ground. Just watch. Don't get drawn in too deeply. Being domineering and being suicidal are two different concepts. Long Chen is domineering now, but if you went, you'd be suicidal. He shouted. He felt a bit helpless. The Stone Tribe's warriors all possessed one-track minds. Having drunk and laughed with Long Chen before, they found him to be their kind of people, and they were now like brothers. Hence, they were receiving the greatest influence from Long Chen. It was unknown whether that foolish fellow hadn't sobered up from his drinking for him to actually want to charge into Long Chen's tribulation to fight against the heavens. The heavenly Daos can't be opposed? The heavenly Daos can't be disobeyed? Perhaps that's not true for all people? Lord Heaven I looked at Long Chen. He extended his hands and touched his middle finger to his thumb several times. It seemed he was calculating something, but in the end he sighed and pulled back his hands. Heavens, are those people also monsters? They're also killing the lightning beasts in one attack. While their attention was drawn to Long Chen, they forgot about the four mysterious experts. They were slaughtering the lightning beasts as well. And just like Long Chen, each time they attacked, a lightning beast would definitely fall. Just who are they? These people have been sent here specifically to undergo their tribulations. They want to absorb as much thunder force as possible. My guess is that they finished condensing their initial Cs from wherever they came from, and then were sent here by supreme experts to absorb more thunder force to temper their bodies to the greatest level. Then they'll return to their world. Their goal should be the laws present within the immemorial path's tribulation lightning. Perhaps the most valuable thing in the immemorial path is the tribulation lightning during the spiritual chi eruption, said Lord Heavenai. He looked at those four mysterious figures with a complicated expression. Here, the aboriginals were like trapped birds, while the immemorial path was their cage. They were treated like criminals. Others could come and go, taking their resources, while they could only endure in silence. These four people hadn't just come to steal the resources, even their tone toward everyone here was full of disdain as well. It made the aboriginals furious, but they were also powerless. Idiots, can you be a bit faster? I've been waiting for you all day. Long Chen's voice suddenly rang out, causing everyone to look over and see him standing atop a lightning dragon's head, a blood-colored saber resting on his shoulder. The lightning dragon was now 8 miles long. Foolish ant, you are provoking us. Shut up. Hurry up and kill them. The next wave of the tribulation won't come until you do, shouted Long Chen. You. That voice seemed to be coming through clenched teeth. But before he could say any more words, the sky trembled. Countless human-shaped lightnings fell from the sky. Berserk lightning battle warriors? How is this possible? Lord Heavenai was shocked. What are they? The Berserk lightning battle warriors are rumored to only appear in an extremely terrifying lightning tribulation. Each of those human-shaped lightnings possesses their own intelligence. They are created when experts fail their tribulations, and their soul essence is drawn away by them. In truth, each of these warriors is an expert, with an expert's battle experience. They're completely different from those mindless beasts, said Lord Heavenai gravely. This was something none of the others had heard of. These lightning warriors actually possessed their own combat experience? Just as they were filled with shock, Long Chen had already exchanged blows with one of those lightning warriors. He had already met these human-shaped lightnings last time. They were formed entirely of lightning runes, but they were like real people. Even the lines on their armor were clear. When his saber met the lightning warrior's spear, sparks flew. He didn't manage to cut through its weapon. At the same time, the other lightning warriors attacked. Lei Long opened its mouth and devoured dozens of them. But as a result, as soon as it swallowed them, their weapons pierced out of its body, and they charged out. Lei Long's body was huge, but in terms of how solid its body was, it was a far cry from these lightning warriors. It couldn't devour them. Even if it could block them, it would be attacked. Lei Long was infuriated but unable to cause any effective damage to them. Divine Ring. 4-star battle armor. At this time, Long Chen couldn't keep holding back. His divine ring appeared behind him, and 4 stars circulated in his eyes. His spiritual yuan poured into Blood Drinker, and blood-colored light erupted. Whirlwind Slash. Long Chen spun, and saber chi blossomed like a flower. It devoured everything around him. The lightning warriors closest to him were all killed, while the others were knocked back. He killed over 100 of them in one blow. But that didn't make him the slightest bit happy. He saw that these lightning warriors all knew how to dodge and defend. They weren't much different from real people. In fact, when they had tried dodging just now, there had been hints of battle skills being used by them. Long Chen told Lei Long not to fight. It was just in charge of devouring the remnant lightning runes from when the lightning warriors were killed. Those were most important. Split the heavens. Long Chen repeatedly attacked. He used Split the Heavens 3 times, killing waves of those lightning warriors. Their lightning runes were crazily devoured by Lei Long. Long Chen was getting more and more shocked. Even when he was releasing all his power, he still felt a great deal of pressure. These lightning warriors were truly powerful, even stronger than ordinary rank 3 celestials. While he fought them, up in the void, the 4 mysterious men panicked. The level of their lightning tribulations had exceeded their expectations. They had come here to absorb the remnant immortal aura that lay within this world's lightning tribulation. This remnant immortal aura was hidden deep within the immemorial path, and the outside world didn't have it. Each time the spiritual chi eruption occurred, the immortal aura would merge into the lightning tribulation. Hence, Their goal had been to absorb that trace of immortal aura as preparations for their breakthrough. But they hadn't expected that incurring the wrath of what they had thought to be an ant-like existence would lead to a change in their heavenly tribulations. They were actually forced into the same tempo and intensity of tribulation as Longchen. Ignorant ant, I'll show you what it means for there to always be heaven beyond the heavens, a height you couldn't attain even if you cultivated for millennia. The four people in the divine flames suddenly released multicolored runes, forming a vague barrier around them. At the same time, a terrifying pressure caused the sky to quake. The four people wrapped in divine flames suddenly began to release energy fluctuations. It was impossible to tell what kind of secret art they were using, but the terrifying pressure even came through the barrier of divine flames. The only things possible to see were those four figures flashing into motion and the berserk lightning battle warriors beginning to explode. That scene caused people to be dumbfounded. Just who were these four? As expected, they have to be heavenly geniuses at that level, or no one would have paid the price to break through the walls between worlds and send them here. Countless runes began to appear in Lord Heaven-Eye's white eyes. He stared into the spatial cyclone in the air. That was where the barrier between worlds had been broken. There had to be experts on the other side maintaining it, making sure it didn't close before the lightning tribulation ended. Longchen also sensed the change happening over there, but he didn't care. Everything was going according to his expectations. He sensed how terrifying those four were. They were experts on a level he had never seen before. They had a kind of aura that made it so even he found it hard to breathe. As soon as they appeared, they had displayed their tyranny, even causing Yu Shaoqian to be injured. Longchen clearly knew that they were powerful beyond his imagination, but once he got angry, he never cared about such things. He would make these arrogant idiots pay a price. They wanted to undergo tribulation? Then they could go ahead and undergo tribulation. Each time Longchen had to go through tribulation, he had to fight against terrible odds. Bringing a few powerful companions with him would make it much more fun. He wanted to see if these four peerless geniuses could block his heavenly tribulation. In fact, Longchen even thought of a certain thing. At the beginning of the tribulation, he noticed that their heavenly tribulations had been nourishing them, as if doting on them with care. This proved beyond a doubt that these four were definitely the favorites of the heavens. They had to be even stronger celestials and received the heavens' pampering. But he, Longchen, was the target the heavens wanted dead. Now that he was undergoing tribulation with them, he wanted to see what the heavenly tribulation would choose. Would it still mercilessly slaughter the four of them to kill him? Or would it let him off because of the four of them? However, up to now, it seemed that the heavenly tribulation had chosen to kill him. It hadn't hesitated just because of those four favorites. It seemed that it wanted to kill them all together. Since that was the case, he was at ease. An intense battle shook the void. There were 5 battlefields with intense slaughter where thunder and lightning shook the land. Those 4 experts had clearly released their full power against the berserk lightning battle warriors. There were tens of thousands of lightning warriors, and each time one was killed, another would take its place. Longchen was doing his best to kill them, but his arms were now numb, and he was constantly being injured. There were just too many of them, and they possessed all kinds of attack methods. Some were fierce and head-on, while some were sly and crafty. Each one had their own techniques, and being surrounded by this many of them, strategy was useless. The only thing to do was to go all out. The fortunate thing was that the huge forest in his primal chaos space provided him with enough life energy. Thus, all his injuries were instantly healed. Yu Shaoqian clenched her fists as she watched Longchen. She was filled with worry, because she saw that what Longchen had released was just a Xiantian cultivation base. He hadn't condensed his initial C. Without condensing his initial C, his spiritual yuan hadn't changed much. How was he supposed to keep up with such a terrifying consumption of energy? The other experts also saw through the clues, but they didn't dare say anything. Furthermore, saying anything now didn't have any meaning. They could only pray for Longchen, hoping he could create a miracle. The only thing that comforted Longchen was that Lei Long was continuously growing as he slaughtered the lightning warriors. Their runes were all devoured by it, and as long as it didn't take the initiative to attack or block those lightning warriors, they wouldn't attack it. As Lei Long devoured more runes, its body grew more condensed, gradually appearing like solid matter. It was now capable of blocking the lightning warriors' attacks. That helped Long Chen out greatly as he was in a crisis now. Lei Long could attack some of the lightning warriors and then rapidly retreat. They would instinctively attack Lei Long, but once it fled, they wouldn't chase it. That distraction saved Long Chen a great deal of trouble. This was a shocking battle. The reason Long Chen could last for so long was mainly because he had been cultivating lightning in his body since blood condensation, so his body had a powerful resistance to lightning. If it was anyone else, then just a few dozen of these lightning warriors would take their lives. But when Long Chen was injured, they were just superficial injuries. The thunder force that entered his body was absorbed and wouldn't cause any damage. So Long Chen was shocked to see that those 4 mysterious men were also able to fight against the Berserk Lightning Battle Warriors. However, now they had shut their mouths and no longer continued sneering. It was unknown whether they just didn't have the time or energy to do so. This shocking battle continued for a long time before the lightning warriors gradually lessened. Suddenly, 9 huge figures condensed within the tribulation clouds. Each one of them wore strange clothes that were extremely ancient. As soon as they appeared, all sound disappeared from heaven and earth. It was deathly silent. These figures caused everyone to jump in shock. They seemed alive. Even their eyes had light and expressions. They were no different from real people. Ancient heroic spirits. Lord Heaven-Eye's expression completely changed. Of everyone present, only he knew that these ancient heroic spirits were the peerless heavenly geniuses that had fallen during their tribulations. They were on a completely different level than the Berserk Lightning Warriors, and the tribulation had copied their states before they had fallen. Those 9 huge figures charged at Long Chen. At the same time, illusory chi seas appeared behind them. 3,000-mile chi seas. Startled cries rang out. Those ancient heroic spirits all possessed 3,000-mile chi seas. They were 9 sea expansion heavenly geniuses. But right now, Long Chen was only at the Xiantian realm. Everyone's heart clenched. This was too unfair. This wasn't tribulation, but extermination. Bastard, just what kind of heavenly tribulation is this? Raged one of the mysterious men. At the same time as Long Chen was attacked, they were also attacked. The first one to face Long Chen was a young handsome man with a spear. When his spear pierced toward him, space trembled intensely and he immediately locked down Long Chen. Boom! Long Chen didn't dare to be careless, and he slashed down with his saber. Cracks appeared in the air, as the void almost shattered. Long Chen's blood flipped within him, and he flew back. This man was too strong. But through this exchange, he confirmed that this man was truly formed of lightning runes. As long as they weren't real people, there was hope. Just as Long Chen was about to attack, his heart suddenly shook, and he activated the lightning body blink. A saber just missed his shoulder, almost cutting off his arm. Lei Long let out a furious roar and attacked them. Suddenly, 2 of them slashed their weapons onto its body, and Lei Long immediately exploded. Lei Long could block the Berserk Lightning Battle Warriors' attacks, but it couldn't block these attacks. The 2 were not on the same level. Lei Long, come back for now. You aren't their match. Long Chen waved his hand. Lei Long's runes returned to his arm. Lei Long's power had grown explosively, but it wasn't a healthy growth. Although it had expanded like a balloon to a shocking point, it wasn't able to endure powerful attacks. Lei Long needed some time to refine the energy it had absorbed, and only then could it release its full power. Right now, it was still too weak. After putting away Lei Long, Long Chen was immediately surrounded by those 9 figures, and the pressure instantly increased. These 9 figures were too terrifying. Even going all out, he was being constantly injured, and the most dangerous moment was when he was almost cut in 2. Long Chen clenched his teeth and bitterly endured. Right now, he was in a crisis, but those 4 experts were also surrounded in the same situation. None of them were better off than him, and he even saw one of them cough up blood. Hee hee, how is the taste of an ant's tribulation? Sneered Long Chen. Bastard, you are provoking us. Just wait dash. One of them ended up being slashed on the shoulder because he had divided his attention. It was unknown what treasure was protecting him, but instead of being cut, he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Now you should know what it feels like to be implicated by another person's tribulation. Fighting all out, Long Chen gradually switched to a defensive battle. He found that although these ancient heroic spirits were powerful, their moves were inflexible. Laws were laws. Their moves didn't adapt as easily as real people. If the 9 of them were really alive, Long Chen would definitely die. Even though they were made of lightning runes, Long Chen still couldn't defeat them. He could only stall and continue watching them. Using the lightning body blink, Long Chen retreated, doing his best to avoid facing them head-on and preserve his energy. Through the divine ring, he began to restore the spiritual yuan he had used up. In any case, the 4 of them were undergoing tribulation with him. He wasn't impatient. He wanted to see just who would die first. As time passed, Long Chen was constantly injured, but that wasn't a problem with the primal chaos space. Long Chen was using his life energy to stall while his spiritual yuan recovered. Suddenly, an explosive sound rang out. One of the flame-wrapped men used some unknown technique to kill an ancient heroic spirit. That person managed to kill an ancient heroic spirit, but he paid an immense price. He was counterattacked and vomited blood. This is the last wave of the tribulation. Don't hold back any longer, said one of the men. He noticed that after killing one of the ancient heroic spirits, the tribulation clouds above him lessened. Following his shout, the others also began going all out. A huge saber image exploded and another ancient heroic spirit was killed. As expected, as that one was killed, the tribulation clouds in the sky shrank. This represented that once the ancient heroic spirits were all killed, the heavenly tribulation would come to an end. Kill! Those mysterious experts erupted with immense power and were clearly using their ultimate moves. It was impossible to tell what their moves were while they were wrapped in flames. But one thing that could be confirmed was that their strength was horrifying. Even from such a distance, it gave the people watching endless pressure. It seems it really is the last wave. I guess there's no need to hold back any longer. Blood Drinker, let's go all out. Long Chen smiled. His vast spiritual yuan all poured into Blood Drinker. Blood Drinker seemed to come to life, and a blood-colored light soared into the sky. Boom! Long Chen's full-strength attack forced back all the ancient heroic spirits, and he used the rebound force to soar into the sky, raising Blood Drinker while he was at it. Blood Drinker rapidly grew into a huge heavenly blade. This was a treasure item's true form, a sign it was about to release its full power. Long Chen's spiritual yuan was sucked dry. Blood chi erupted from Blood Drinker's blade, forming a huge illusory image. That image was 3,000 meters long, 10 times longer than its true form. Split the heavens too. The huge saber slashed down, instantly devouring those ancient heroic spirits. Explosive sounds reverberated. The only thing remaining after that huge saber slashed down was a sky full of lightning runes. All those ancient heroic spirits had been killed by Long Chen's attack. Lei Long, time to eat. Long Chen summoned Lei Long and simply lay on its head. He felt like he was hollow now. He didn't have the slightest bit of energy left. But fortunately, the tribulation had ended. Lei Long devoured those runes. Although they weren't large, consuming them caused Lei Long's body to swell up explosively. Its body grew stiff, and it couldn't even swim through the air anymore. It slowly fell to the ground. You've eaten too much and need to digest it. Go into seclusion. Long Chen put Lei Long away again, and it fell into a slumber. Its power had increased too much and it needed to digest it. Seeing that Long Chen's final attack was able to destroy all those ancient heroic spirits, the aboriginals let out a cheer. Long Chen had actually succeeded. Yu Shaoqian even began to cry. Long Chen stood up on the immortal condensing platform, looking at those 4 figures above. He just managed to see them using their trump cards to kill their ancient heroic spirits. That caused Long Chen's heart to sink. Those 4 were truly powerful. As the final ancient heroic spirit was killed, the tribulation clouds in the sky shrank. Just as they were about to disappear, the tribulation clouds shattered. In that instant, lightning chains descended from the sky, piercing straight toward the 5 of them. These are Qiankuan lightning chains? The bastard? Run! Shouted one of the men, seeming to have realized something. The divine flames on his body suddenly fluctuated, and runes wrapped around the 4 of them. They flew back toward the spatial whirlpool in the air. Before Long Chen could even figure out what was happening, he was bound by the lightning chains and dragged into the air. He was startled to find that he couldn't even move with the lightning chains around him. Those 4 rapidly fled, but just as they were about to enter the spatial whirlpool, the lightning chains formed a huge net that trapped them. The 4 of them were horrified, but no matter how they struggled, it was to no avail. These were heavenly Tao chains and were impossible for them to break. Suddenly, space exploded. A large hand stretched out from the whirlpool and caught the 4 of them. It pulled, and the lightning chains were broken apart. The hand brought the 4 of them into the spatial whirlpool and disappeared. Everything returned to normal. That scene was too shocking. That large hand had been hundreds of miles long, like a celestial hand. Just what kind of power was that? The aboriginals were all motionless, unable to say a word. This kind of power had exceeded their understanding. Long Chen. Yu Shaoqian cried out and didn't bother with that huge hand. She was focused completely on Long Chen. He was bound by the chains and being pulled into the air. The tribulation clouds had disappeared, but chains were coming from heaven and earth, binding Long Chen. The lightning chains suddenly stretched taut, wanting to pull him apart. Yu Shaoqian panicked. She actually rushed over but was stopped by Lord Heaven Eye. At this moment, no one could help Long Chen. Fuck, I just knew my luck couldn't be this good. But good thing I still have a backup. Long Chen cursed inside. A seal within his body suddenly opened. This was where Long Chen had sealed all the medicinal energy and essence of the Enlightenment Palace pills he had consumed during this time. The medicinal energy erupted, pouring into the Enlightenment Palace star. The star had originally been almost full and now it suddenly shook. The Enlightenment Palace star absorbed all the medicinal energy that poured out of the seal. This was like the straw that broke the camel's back, and the originally still star began to slowly revolve. As it revolved, it went from an ordinary ball of light to become a planet. Images appeared, mountains, rivers, valleys. Once the Enlightenment Palace star had revolved 9 times, a faint mist began to appear over it. It then came to a sudden stop. The Feng Fu, Alioth, and Life Fate stars all revolved, sending energy to the Enlightenment Palace star. After receiving a trace of the 3 other stars' core energy, the Enlightenment Palace star suddenly began to rapidly revolve. Long Chen's divine ring suddenly reappeared behind him. But this time, it was no longer 300 meters wide, but 3,000 meters. Red, orange, yellow, and green rings were present within it. It rapidly spun, resonating with heaven and earth. All the spiritual qi within 10,000 miles was instantly sucked dry. Long Chen's exhausted spiritual yuan was fully restored in an instant. His mind shook, and that tearing force from the chains no longer felt so strong. At least for now, he didn't need to worry about being torn apart. HM? Something's different? Is the 9-star Hegemon Body Arts C expansion supposed to be done like this? Long Chen suddenly noticed that once the Enlightenment Palace star had reached perfection, the 4 stars suddenly had small whirlpools appear underneath them. The whirlpools were rapidly growing as energy was poured into them. Could it be these are my initial Cs? I have 4 of them? Long Chen sensed the energy within the whirlpools rapidly growing, but he was unable to tell how large they were. At this moment, he was still wrapped by countless lightning chains. He suddenly thought of something, and his divine sense entered the 4 whirlpools. He connected them to the chains binding him. Boom! The 4 whirlpools instantly grew explosively. 4 huge illusory initial Cs appeared behind Long Chen. Each of those 4 Cs was 300 miles wide, and they blocked practically half the sky. What? Lord Heaven Eye couldn't help being shocked. Long Chen had originally been in danger, but now he suddenly summoned 4 huge initial seas? Everyone looked at Long Chen with shock, not knowing what was going on. Long Chen was still bound by the lightning chains. They stretched far into the sky, too far to even see their end. It was an extremely shocking scene. Long Chen snorted. He hadn't expected to accidentally realize the mystery of the 9-star Hegemon body arts sea expansion. So the requirement was that the 4 stars had to reach perfection before undergoing sea expansion. He had almost committed a grave error. Now the 4 seas were connected to the lightning chains, and heaven and earth's energy were pouring into them. His initial seas rapidly grew, reaching 3,000 miles in just a few breaths. Once they reached that size, they continued to surge, but something unknown was restricting them. He tried several times without succeeding. He tried many times but gave up in the end. Although there was more energy to be absorbed, this world's laws didn't allow initial seas to grow beyond 3,000 miles. It was impossible to break this law. But having 4 initial seas still delighted Long Chen. Now he had the equivalent of 4 dantians, which would give him enough spiritual yuan to play around with. But the 4 initial seas disappeared. A Qi sea appeared below each of the Fengfu, Alioth, Life, Fate, and Enlightenment Palace stars. The 4 stars floated above them, each star and sea being 1 unit. The 4 seas' energy suddenly poured throughout Long Chen's body, and his divine ring rapidly spun. Heaven and earth shook as a terrifying pressure descended upon the world. A will desiring to tear apart heaven and earth's restrictions exploded. I want to see whether you really can restrict me. 4-star battle armor. As Long Chen struggled, heaven and earth quivered. Each of the chains soared into the 9 heavens and deep into the ground. His struggling made it seem like heaven and earth would collapse. The aboriginals were pale. They had never seen anything like this and had never imagined that someone could rely on his own power to fight against the heavenly Daos. "Let's go help Big Brother Long Chen," said Xiaofei. "Don't mess around. These are the heavenly tribulation's chains. Although the tribulation's clouds have scattered, the tribulation still isn't over. We would also be bound by the chains, or perhaps even killed," shouted Lord Heaven-Eye, stopping a group of impetuous fellows. They were too young and didn't understand. But Lord Heaven-Eye knew just how terrifying these chains were. They weren't things that could be resisted just through great power. Those chains represented the heavenly Daos destructive aura. "You've come against me time after time, each time wanting to take my life. You blind heavens, just wait. Sooner or later, I'll tear you down," roared Long Chen as he struggled. He wanted to break these heavenly Dao chains, but he didn't know what these chains were made of. No matter how he struggled, they wouldn't break. As Long Chen's fury erupted, space constantly trembled. Long Chen pushed his 4 stars to their peak, and he clenched his teeth so hard that blood poured out. "Break for me! Rumble! Heavens, the void is being torn." With Long Chen's full power erupting, cracks appeared in the space around one of the chains. As Long Chen struggled, those cracks grew larger. From the pitch-black cracks, primal chaos aura poured into the immemorial path like a dam had been cracked. Boom! The cracks continued to grow, and as Long Chen pulled the chain, a hole appeared in the sky. He really knows how to pull. Following the creation of that hole, the heavenly Dao chains gradually faded. The tribulation had finally scattered, and Long Chen broke out of his chains, regaining his freedom. Long Chen looked up at the sky and saw the huge hole. It was in the midst of closing. In less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the 10,000-mile-wide hole was fully recovered. The sky returned to normal. "Long Chen!" Yu Shaoqian suddenly crashed into Long Chen's embrace. Long Chen smiled. "Sorry I worried you. I was too impetuous." Yu Shaoqian gently sobbed into his embrace, shaking her head. She knew he had done this because of her. But that wasn't important anymore. What was important was that Long Chen was still alive. The heavenly tribulation had come to an end, and everything had returned to normal. Many of the experts collapsed on the ground, feeling like their hearts had been in overdrive. This tribulation had been too frightening. Lord Heaven-Eye had his eyes closed, seeming to be sensing something. After a long time, he finally opened his eyes, a faint smile on his face. Lightning breaks the sky, the immemorial revives. Hee, so that's what it is, that's what it is. Do you all sense it? Asked Lord Heaveneye to the tribe leaders. Sense what? You don't sense the change in the world? With Lord Heaveneye's reminder, the tribe leaders spread their senses. An expression of disbelief and delight appeared on their faces. It's good as long as you know. Don't let the children know. Lord Heaveneye smiled. Now that the tribulation had ended, Long Chen bid Lord Heaveneye and the others goodbye. He returned to the Stone Tribe. He had finally advanced to sea expansion. Not only that, the Enlightenment Palace star had reached perfection, and he had created 4 Chi Seas. Even he didn't know how much his power had increased. Once he returned to the Stone Tribe, Long Chen got to work, refining pills for Yu Xiaoqian. Although he couldn't recover her core energy, he could at least make her feel better. Long Chen, I want to return to the skyscraping world. 3 days later, Yu Xiaoqian's condition had finally improved somewhat. She held Long Chen's hand, unwilling to part. Long Chen nodded. Yu Xiaoqian had a method to leave the immemorial path ahead of time. She had already advanced to sea expansion, and her Chi Si was connected to her core energy. She had to return to the skyscraping world to replenish her lost core energy and blood essence. But she also didn't want to part with Long Chen. Just stay for a few more days. Long Chen gently brushed Yu Xiaoqian's cheek. He also didn't want to part with her, but he also knew she had to go back to her race, and the sooner the better. Otherwise, if her blood essence was exhausted for too long, it would affect her foundation. Okay. Yu Xiaoqian nodded. I'll refine a large batch of sea merging pills for you. When you get back, don't be in a hurry to stabilize your cultivation base. Use the medicinal pills to continue expanding your sea until it reaches its absolute limit, said Long Chen. The sea expansion realm was important. It decided how much a person could grow in the future. So the sea had to be expanded to its peak. The initial sea was just the first step of sea expansion. Once the initial sea was formed, it returned to the Dantian. Through medicinal energy, it was possible to continue expanding the sea. Once a cultivator reached the first heaven stage, their realm would completely stabilize, and future expansions would be in proportion to the size of the initial sea. So the greater the foundation, the greater the future prospects. Long Chen spent the next few days refining sea merging pills. Although he didn't have the earth flame's power, his spiritual strength had increased after advancing to sea expansion, so the difficult sea merging pills were refined much easier this time. Yu Xiaoqian finally left a week later. She slipped away without telling him, but Long Chen was aware. He just acted like he didn't. He knew she had her own sorrows. Her tear-stained face when she left was enough to prove how badly she didn't want to leave. Long Chen also didn't want her to leave, but he had his own things to do. They had to part, and this silent departure of hers was just to avoid feeling more pain. Before she had left, Long Chen had given her a pile of heavenly Dao fruits and sea-merging pills. The only way for him to comfort himself was to believe that they were parting so that they could stay together in the future. 2 days after Yu Xiaoqian left, Guoran came. Guoran was also a sea expansion expert now. In his high spirits, he acted completely insufferable. Boss, did you hear about it? People are saying that there were experts that descended from beyond the heavens, shattering heaven and earth. It's just sad no one knows if it's true or not, said Guoran. It was probably just a bunch of bragging and nonsense. Just let them spread the rumors. How big is your Chi Si now? Asked Long Chen. 350, how much? Long Chen thought he had misheard. 350 miles, said Guoran. How could you possibly have done that? Isn't it said that rank 3 celestials can at least expand their initial seas to 1,000 miles? Long Chen was speechless. Cough, there are multiple variables in all things. Boss, don't look at me like that, cried Guoran. This wasn't something he could exaggerate to make it sound better. If it was anyone else but Long Chen, he wouldn't tell the truth even if he was beaten to death. You really are a marvel. You're lucky you don't rely on that to live. Boss, I've investigated many things during the past few days. I heard many bad pieces of news, said Guoran. What bad news? I didn't expect so many people to have hidden themselves for this opening of the immemorial path. Now that everyone has advanced to see expansion, they've finally revealed themselves. Shui Yu, Huang Junmo, Yu Changhao, and Ji Changkong have all become rank 4 celestials, and it's not just them. Other sects hid their monsters just for this moment. There are several rank 4 celestials on the righteous side. Who would have thought they would actually restrain themselves for this long? Guoran clenched his teeth. Anything else? Long Chen surprisingly didn't care about that. Yes. There are even more experts from the ancient races, and many of them are preparing to challenge Yu Changhao for the position of the #1 expert of the Eastern Wasteland's ancient races. And there's also someone from the corrupt path, something. I forget his name because it was garbage. He calls himself the Ghost King, and he says that he will cut down the corrupt King Shui Yu and subdue the Devil Empress Leng Yuan. Leng Yuan. Long Chen's heart suddenly shook. Where had she gone? He hadn't sensed her undergoing her tribulation this entire time. According to reason, an expert like her would have caused a tribulation at least on the level of Yu Xiaoqian's. But he hadn't sensed her at all. Then he suddenly laughed involuntarily. Those 4 fellows that had appeared had summoned even more terrifying tribulations. In the beginning, people had been vaguely able to see them over the central area, but once their tribulations had descended, no one had been able to probe them. It was reasonable that he hadn't sensed Leng Yuan's tribulation while it was covered by theirs. Boss, let me show you my treasure. Guoran smiled with pride. That wretched smile made Long Chen's hair stand on end. Guoran took on an extremely flashy posture, and a huge figure appeared in front of Long Chen. It was a 300-meter earth dragon. Damn, how did it grow so fast? Long Chen jumped in shock. It had only been such a short time. How could an egg turn into this giant? Hee, sister-in-law Meng Qi gave me some special beast-taming methods. I don't eat, I don't drink, I don't sleep, all day I just find food for it. At night, I nourish it with my soul, communicating with it and helping it absorb spiritual qi. I really have spent my blood, sweat, and tears on it, said Guoran. He was grumbling, but the wretched pride on his face showed the truth. As soon as the earth dragon appeared, it growled at Long Chen. But once Long Chen glanced at it, it went silent and obediently hid behind Guoran. Its powerful spiritual perception allowed it to sense Long Chen's terrifying aura. Not bad. A magical beast that's raised properly will be even stronger and more intelligent than a magical beast in the wild. Congratulations on this dragon steed of yours, laughed Long Chen. It's all thanks to boss. Guoran solemnly sucked up. I'll go say goodbye to the tribe leader. Let's regather with Meng Qi, said Long Chen, bringing Guoran to the tribe leader's tent. When Long Chen left the stone tribe, he told them to be careful. Their position had already been exposed. He and Guoran moved north, straight for Meng Qi's position. Guoran told Long Chen that the others had set themselves up around Meng Qi, so going to her position was the most convenient. As they rushed on their way, they didn't see a single person. Everyone had only just advanced to see expansion and needed to use this time to continue expanding their see. Otherwise, once their spiritual yuan stabilized, they wouldn't be able to expand them so easily. But Long Chen wasn't worried. He had sea-merging pills, and he had also sent Guoran to distribute those pills to everyone. Although he hadn't been able to give them many at that time, it was enough to keep their qi seas active for a while. The 2 of them were extremely fast. Long Chen was using the lightning body blink. Although he couldn't summon Lei Long's power right now, just the natural thunder force he had was enough to use it. He was like a bolt of lightning. Guoran wasn't slower than him. His arms transformed into wings, and wind roared out from behind his butt. He sped along shoulder to shoulder with Long Chen. But Long Chen was still vertical, while Guoran was horizontal. Next time you design something, try to pay more attention to aesthetics. Does this really feel like flying freely to you? Looking at the energy shooting out of Guoran's butt, Long Chen was speechless. It was all too easy for a person to link that sight to a waste-like expulsion. There's no way around it. Putting the propulsion at the feet or hands requires the energy to be balanced at all times. At least this way, my hands are free to move as I please, said Guaran. He also knew this position wasn't very tasteful, but there was no way around it. Oh, there are fluctuations ahead. Strange, people came out to fight before stabilizing their realm? Let's go take a look. Long Chen changed direction, going toward the faint fluctuations he sensed. Having advanced to see expansion, his spiritual perception had greatly improved, and the perfection of the 4th star made his 9-star hegemon body art even easier to use. The two of them were extremely fast. After passing by 2 mountains, they saw a group of people chasing 2 women. Those women were wearing the Righteous Path's robes, and the 7 men chasing them had their faces covered in scales. Their pupils were like crocodile eyes, thin, long, and vertical. They had to be members of an ancient race. It's the Scarlet Blood Salamander race. They're the most perverted ancient race, said Guaran. They were a powerful ancient race, naturally predisposed to be excessively lewd. Whether male or female, they were required to be powerful. These experts had only just advanced to see expansion, and that hadn't just increased their strength. It had also provoked their most primal desires, and they needed to release them. One of their extremely perverted divine abilities was their exceptionally sensitive noses. Even from 100 miles away, they could sense people. So these 2 women were rather unlucky to be the ones they found. Half of the women's robes had been torn off already. Although they had advanced to see expansion, neither of them could compare to the perverts. Both of them were covered in injuries and had clearly gone through a fierce fight. Now they were fleeing miserably but were unable to escape the pervert's grasp. It was like they were playing with their prey. The Scarlet Blood Salamander experts were like beasts in heat. No way. It's this coincidental? Long Chen was stunned when he saw those 2 women. Those 2 were particularly familiar. He suddenly recalled that Guaran had acted as the hero to save those 2. Last time, they had been chased down by the Corrupt Path's experts, and it seemed that the corrupt experts had had some immoral goals. Now, these 2 were being chased by the Scarlet Blood Salamander experts, and their goals were also immoral. These 2 really had to be excessively unlucky. Guaran, I'll give you another chance to be the hero saving beauties, laughed Long Chen. These 2 women are too fickle and definitely not good people. Last time I helped them, they immediately fled. If I hadn't been able to handle my opponents, wouldn't I have been killed? They don't even have the slightest empathy. Completely immoral. Guaran grumbled, clearly dissatisfied with their conduct. Long Chen laughed and patted him on the shoulder. Men should be magnanimous. Act straightforward and upright, with a clear conscience. Being chivalrous isn't to get something in return. It's not a case of getting back what you put in. Although most chivalrous people don't have good ends and they'll occasionally be mocked by others for being stupid, they have their own considerations in their hearts. So let me ask you, if we don't do anything and just watch as these 2 women were used and killed by these perverts, will you have peace of mind? Not everything you do is to get a return, nor do you need to care about what others think. If you want to do it, then do it. That's called being a man. Alright, boss is always right. Then I'll show off for them once more. Boss, keep watch and tell me if Junior Brother's posing abilities have improved. Guaran shot forward, turning into a golden ray of light that appeared in front of that group of Scarlet Blood Salamander experts. With a wave of his hand, a golden crossbow appeared and shot out a golden arrow. Those experts immediately sensed him and gave up on those 2 women. They hastily retreated. A huge arrow exploded on the ground. That was Guaran's exploding arrow. Once the arrow exploded, it transformed into countless pieces of shrapnel with immense killing power. However, when the shrapnel struck the Scarlet Blood Salamander experts' bodies, it simply caused some dinging sounds. It was unable to pierce their skin. These experts had inherited the fire-bellied salamander's tough hide, making their defensive ability shocking. Now that they had entered sea expansion, even ordinary treasure items wouldn't be able to pierce their hides if they didn't release their full power. "Who are you?" shouted one of them, not having expected anyone to dare ruin their fun. "I swept through the 4 seas, crossed 1,000 mountains, caused huge billows in heaven and earth, slaughtered demons, eliminated devils, plucked the stars and moon. If you want a chivalrous hero, you can come find me. Guaran. The dust gradually settled. A figure appeared in front of the scarlet blood salamander experts. There was a huge golden crossbow resting on his shoulder, slanted at a 45-degree angle. He was looking at the sky, one of his legs lunged forward. His legs were constantly quivering from the effort. That ridiculous pose made people have an urge to throttle him. Then there were the verses he had recited just now. His words had just flowed off his tongue exceptionally smoothly. And the last words were said with extra emphasis, making them sound intimidating. The combination of his heaven-shaking arrow and flashy chant truly were imposing. But regretfully, Guaran didn't have his helmet on. That wretched smile of his and his quivering legs made him seem more like a brat in need of a spanking. Long Chen rolled his eyes and patted himself on the forehead. There was no saving Guaran. He had definitely learned this from Mo Nian. The new poser method didn't look anything like himself. But that chanting got full points for wretchedness. The two women had been in despair, so it delighted them to see someone come to save them. But seeing Guaran's face, they felt a burst of shame. They both recognized him. Bastard, are you looking to die? Just who are you? An expert walked to the front of the group. He was a large guy with huge shoulders that made his neck practically disappear. He was covered completely in scales, and his blood chi seemed like it was about to erupt, showing just how strong his physical body was. This person was a terrifying innate rank 3 celestial. His voice was like thunder, shaking their ears. Guaran jumped, not expecting such a powerful character to come out as soon as he started posing. How was he supposed to continue posing now? Wouldn't he be beaten into a dead poser soon? But then thinking about it, his boss was right there, so what was there to be afraid of? He icily replied, "Are you an idiot, or are you deaf? I've already said that if you want someone chivalrous, you can come find me, Guaran. You can't even tell my name from that? Have you ever read a book? Courting Death. Do you know who we are, me Guaran?" "A garbage name dash," shouted one of them. Guaran's expression sank and he raised his hand. As he pointed his finger, they thought he was about to curse him, but a golden light suddenly shot out and pierced that guy's head. His entire head exploded, and he fell to the ground, dead. If a celestial's spiritual strength wasn't strong enough, the most fatal part of them would be their head. Once the head exploded, those without powerful spiritual strength wouldn't be able to condense a soul that could escape the body. They would immediately die. The other scarlet blood salamander experts were shocked. Guaran had only raised a finger, and there had been no spiritual yuan fluctuations or soul energy fluctuations. This attack had come without any warning. All of them were infuriated and took out their weapons. The two women were also shocked. It was unexpected that after this long of a parting, Guaran had become so powerful. That dead guy had been a rank 2 celestial that had just reached C expansion. Did you see it clearly? This is the result of offending this lord. This lord's jade tree wind misty unrivaled max instant flash kill golden yang finger has never missed. It is known to be the finger that kills gods, slaughters ghosts, the finger that takes all life. You ignorant fools, did you think this lord was just trying to scare you? Furthermore, let me correct one other thing. I am Guaran, not me Guaran. Guaran's gaze icily swept over them, his gaze full of disdain as if he didn't even place them in his eyes. Long Chen couldn't help but nod as he watched from not so far away. Guaran had truly grown a great deal. His imposingness could intimidate his enemies. It had to stem from his confidence, so he trusted that this fellow hadn't lazed around during this time. His combat power had greatly improved once again. You too, why aren't you leaving yet? Guaran asked the two women. We've already been immoral once. We're already full of regret from that time, so now we swear not to do anything immoral for the rest of our lives. Even if we had to die 100 times, we would die without regret, said one of them. They had already changed robes and were slowly recovering their energy, preparing to fight to the death with Guaran. Haha, you two girls don't need to be afraid. With this lord present, I guarantee no one will dare touch a single hair on your heads. Hearing their words made Guaran incredibly refreshed. He also had to admire Long Chen's magnanimity. That was the magnanimity a man should possess. He was also grateful to Long Chen. If he had just watched without saving them and only learned that the two had repented for their previous actions later, he would have been ashamed. "Since you all want to die, then come. We'll tear you to pieces," shouted the innate rank 3 Celestial. Wait, don't be in such a rush. Let me first introduce you to a godlike figure. Boss, it's time for you to come out. Everyone, warmly welcome my boss to the stage," shouted Guoran, looking toward Long Chen. "This bitch." Clapping rang through the air. It wasn't very loud, nor was it very warm. In fact, the only one clapping was Guoran. Long Chen raged, "You're the one who wanted to show off. What are you doing dragging me into it?" "Hee, boss, I've already finished showing off. Now it's time for you to show off your own splendor. Junior brother wouldn't dare fight with you for the stage." Guoran smiled mischievously. "Wouldn't it be better for you to hog the stage yourself?" Long Chen didn't understand. When had this brat learned to be low-key? Cough, after bathing under the baptism of your light all day, after listening to your teachings every day, Junior brother's immoral tendencies have already been dispelled. In the outside world, harmony and peace are the most precious. How could I start fighting with others so easily? Seeing Long Chen's despising glare, Guoran hastily changed tones. "Cough. What I mean is that you know my power. Each time I attack, it costs money. I want to become a hard-working and thrifty man." At least Long Chen understood now. This brat definitely had the goods to kill these people, but he was unwilling. Many of his stronger attacks were one-time things. It not only wasted money, but it also exhausted his time and effort. Thus, he was unwilling. As for the top expert of the Scarlet Blood Salamander race, he was clearly a stubborn, defensive opponent. After considering that, Guoran had decided being a poser wasn't worth the money this time. "Bastard, you dare to dupe me?" roared one of the Scarlet Blood Salamander experts. He shot forward, slashing his saber at Long Chen and Guoran. This attack was shockingly powerful. This was the terror of sea expansion experts. With so much spiritual yuan, a random attack could shatter mountains. Guoran hastily shot back. A hand caught the saber. Long Chen had one hand behind him, with one hand forward, holding the saber. That powerful saber chi vanished without a trace under Long Chen's hand. Boss really is boss. To grab a blade with his bare hands, what a badass method. Guoran laughed as he hid in the distance. "Many thanks to senior apprentice brothers for saving us. We thanked the two women. It's fine. You can leave now. Once boss takes action, he'll definitely shake heaven and earth. You two should leave before being blown apart by the shockwaves." Guoran waved his hand, his eyes only on Long Chen. The two women glanced at each other, clearly a bit disappointed. Guoran wasn't warm to them. Perhaps it was due to their previous actions that had caused him to despise them. Without saying another word, they bowed to Guoran and left. Guoran didn't particularly care about their departure. His focus was on Long Chen. He had to solemnly learn these ultimate poser abilities. Long Chen had caught the saber with one hand, like he had caught a child's plaything. That saber was a low-grade treasure item, and its sharpness was shocking. But it wasn't even able to break Long Chen's skin. Long Chen finally experienced the delight of having his strength explosively grow. Having reached sea expansion and completing the 4th star, his physical body was comparable to treasure items. The feeling of catching treasure items bare-handed was excellent. The Scarlet Blood Salamander experts jumped in shock. They didn't know this was Long Chen. Although they had heard his name, they didn't realize this was him. "Bastard, you dare look down on us?" that expert roared. This was a naked humiliation. His aura erupted, and berserk energy surged behind him. It was the sea manifestation of a sea expansion expert. There were 2 colored runes within that sea. That was the mark of a rank 2 celestial. Following the eruption of his full power, the ground began to shake. But he was unable to pull back his saber or to make it even twitch. Too weak. Long Chen shook his head. Suddenly, A cracking sound rang out. Long Chen increased his strength, and that treasure item was shattered. He flipped the tip of it and stabbed it through the expert's head. Blood mist filled the air as he was killed in one blow. The innate rank 3 Celestial's expression finally changed. Seeing how terrifying Long Chen was, he immediately attacked. Chi waves surged out of him, and his scales began to shine. He smashed his fist at Long Chen. Long Chen also punched out. As a result, that person was sent flying. He crashed into his fellow clansmen so hard that their bones broke and they fainted. As for the innate rank 3 Celestial, his arm was completely deformed. He was appalled. Their scarlet blood salamander race was renowned for their powerful defenses. But this one attack had broken his arm. You've attacked twice. It should be my turn now. Long Chen suddenly sent a punch toward the innate rank 3 Celestial. This punch sealed any of his escape paths. The innate rank 3 Celestial's expression completely changed. In that instant he felt like his skin was about to explode, as if an ancient dragon had woken and was attacking him. Scarlet blood gold body. His entire body became covered in golden runes, forming layers of defense. He seemed like a golden statue now. This was his race's strongest defensive move. Boom. Long Chen had attacked with his full power. He wanted to see just how strong he was. The result was that the rank 3 Celestial's arms were both broken, and Long Chen's fist still smashed onto his chest. The scarlet blood salamander expert stared at the fist stuck in his chest in horror. Your Chi Si isn't stable, your magical arts are impure. You can't even use your own power. What a waste of my effort. Long Chen shook his head, pulling back his fist. You. The scarlet blood salamander expert's voice was as ugly as clashing steel. Bang! Regretfully, before he could hear Long Chen's response, his body exploded like a shattering statue. Boss, you're too powerful. Even such a powerful fellow was one shot by you. Looking at those shattered remnants, Guoran was shocked. His boss was becoming more and more of a monster. These people just advanced to sea expansion. They still weren't able to bring out a sea expansion expert's power, which was why they were killed in one blow. The strongest point of sea expansion experts is that they can use magical arts to activate natural energy. But these fellows came out before stabilizing their realm. It'd be strange if they didn't die. However, don't look down on the ancient races just because of this. These idiots from the scarlet blood salamander race should have had many powerful inherited magical arts. The sea expansion realm is the stage where their power undergoes a heaven-toppling change. However, these idiots came out before even cultivating their inherited magical arts. So killing them was just a waste of time. There's no way to judge the ancient race's power through this. Long Chen shook his head. Guoran nodded. You're right. In truth, the most terrifying ones are those that have advanced to become rank 4 Celestials. The rumor is that rank 4 have an immense suppressive effect on rank 3 Celestials. They've already entered another kind of realm. For this many rank 4 Celestials to appear at once, perhaps the immemorial path will be extremely chaotic for the next bit. Many people want to declare themselves king here. Seeing Guoran's worry, Long Chen smiled. What are you afraid of? As we swept through the land beneath the heavens, when were we ever afraid of anyone? Aren't they just rank 4 Celestials? Just as before, when we see them, we'll smash their balls. Hee, I knew Boss was the biggest poser. To tell the truth, today, I've finally realized why I can't learn Boss's poser style, laughed Guoran. Why is that? Because I'm just acting badass, but you really are badass. I have to act because I'm worried others won't realize I'm a badass, but you don't need to act like anything to prove who you are. So in the future, I've decided not to imitate you. I couldn't imitate you even if I wanted to. I have to find my own poser path, said Guoran, his face lit up with comprehension. Are you planning on spending your whole life posing? Cursed Long Chen. There really was no hope for him. Then what else am I supposed to do? With how badass you are, and with me following you, if I didn't show off, who would even be able to tell how badass I am? Grumbled Guoran. Long Chen looked at Guoran, unable to find a word to say in retort. It seemed this preposterous reasoning of his actually did have some logic to it. Was being a poser also a kind of cultivation? Guaran went and resolved the fainted fellows and took away any valuables. The two of them continued on their way. They traveled for a long time, but they didn't meet anyone. It seemed that other than those idiots from the scarlet blood salamander race, no one wanted to waste this critical time. On the way, Guaran killed 2 7th-rank magical beasts as rations for the Earth Dragon. Guaran had become a qualified keeper during this time, caring for the Earth Dragon like he would his own wife. After half a day, they reached a desolate temple that had collapsed. There was a statue within the ruins, but it had also crumbled. Only its lower body remained. However, it was shockingly huge. There was a large Earth Dragon lazily soaking in the sun. On top of that, the statue. What startled Long Chen was that this Earth Dragon was even bigger than Guaran's, and its aura had already reached the 6th rank. When Long Chen and Guaran arrived, the Earth Dragon suddenly stood up and glared at them. Guaran hastily tossed it a magical beast's corpse as a bribe, and it obediently moved aside, revealing a cave. What is this? It takes bribes to get in? Long Chen was speechless. Boss, you can go down first. I'll go out and find some more food. This little fellow's stomach capacity is too shocking. Guaran ran off. Long Chen followed the tunnel down. It wasn't long before he entered a large room. As soon as he did, a burst of fragrance attacked him, and a pair of arms tightly wrapped around his waist. Long Chen pulled that sweet body into his embrace. In spite of Meng Qi trying to dodge, his mouth firmly planted on hers, giving her a fierce kiss. Don't! Meng Qi suddenly cried out and tightly caught Long Chen's evil hand. Her face was completely red. Long Chen had known he couldn't possibly succeed. Other than some kissing and hugging, he was always caught at the next step. Long Chen, don't make things difficult for me. Otherwise, I won't be able to face the other sisters. Meng Qi held Long Chen, pleading. But in this springtime of love, such a look made Long Chen even less able to control himself. Long Chen was helpless and could only release her. He was finding it harder to control himself around her, especially because of their bath in the spirit world. He had seen her flawless body, and it was because he had seen it that it made it even harder to stop himself. Being able to look but not eat was an extremely cruel torture. Perhaps if Long Chen tried pleading, he might have some methods that could work with Meng Qi's kind character. But he couldn't do such a thing. He loved her, and so he couldn't allow her to suffer the slightest grievance, even from himself. Love required sacrifice. Long Chen, I'm sorry, said Meng Qi. Foolish wife, what's there to be sorry about? I was clearly in the wrong. Long Chen lightly kissed Meng Qi on the forehead and smiled. Meng Qi was truly too kind. Meng Qi took out a sleek blanket and helped Long Chen take off his shoes, just like a gentle wife taking care of her husband. It made Long Chen emotional and apologetic. But he really wasn't able to refuse Meng Qi's kindness. She also took out a tea set and boiled tea for him, telling him about what had happened to her. Not long after she had entered the immemorial path, she had encountered Ji Changkong. That fellow's mouth had been so loathsome that even she had thought he had to die. When she summoned the Red-Eye's sacred blood phoenix, she had almost killed that idiot. If he hadn't had a powerful soul item to protect himself, he would have long since disappeared from the immemorial path. After that, she had been sneak attacked several times. What made Long Chen furious was the fact that her sneak attackers were all experts from the righteous path. In the beginning, Meng Qi hadn't had the heart to kill them. But later, she found that more and more people were treating her as prey. She was finally infuriated and summoned the Blood Phoenix. As a result, those people all had miserable ends. She went through several trial regions without obtaining anything. In the end, she had inadvertently ended up here. She had found countless soul cultivator inheritances beneath these ruins, so she had stayed here to study them. When asked about how large her Qi was, Meng Qi responded with 3,000 miles. That made Long Chen relieved. 3,000 miles was a limit. Having one marvel, like Guaran in the Dragon Blood Legion, was enough. When he asked about the blood phoenix, Meng Qi said that it was out hunting, finding food for the earth dragon. After being raised by Meng Qi for so long, it was at the peak of the 7th rank. Even if it ran into sea expansion experts, it would have the power to protect itself. Right now, everyone was in the midst of expanding their seas. There would be no problem with it going out alone. It was because of the blood phoenix that the earth dragon was able to grow so fast. What about you, Long Chen? What happened to you once you entered? Asked Meng Qi, handing him a cup of fresh tea. Me? I seem to have been born under an unlucky star. Long Chen couldn't help but grumble. He gave her a simple rundown of his journey in the immemorial path, starting with killing Shui Guanji all the way to the heavenly tribulation. Just what kind of existences were those for? Asked Meng Qi with shock. Who knows? Although they're idiots, I have no choice but to admit that their strength exceeds my imagination. I only managed to con them once because my lightning tribulation is special. If it was a true battle, I definitely wouldn't be their match right now. I asked Lord Heaven Eye, but he avoided my questions, merely saying that I had to be careful of them. Those are peak geniuses. From their tone and conduct, I later guessed that those 4 are likely those legendary true celestials. In other words, rank 9 celestials, said Long Chen. Meng Qi was startled. Rank 8 celestials and below were known as quasi-celestials. Only rank 9 celestials were true celestials. But such figures were on the level of legends. In fact, some people even doubted their existence. Long Chen, could it be that you guessed their identity from the start, but still decided to go against them? Meng Qi was a bit speechless. My wife really knows me the best. Long Chen laughed, giving her a thumbs up. Don't mess around. I have to say, your temper really is too explosive. If you don't care about any consequences, you'll suffer sooner or later, said Meng Qi. There's no way around it. You know my temper. Back then, I was so angry I wanted to bite them to death. Just thinking about back then ignited Long Chen's rage. They really knew how to act arrogant. And in order to show off how badass they were, they caused Yu Shaoqian to exhaust so much of her essence blood. Even if he had to repeat this 10,000 times, he would do the same. If he didn't go all out against them for such an offense, he wouldn't be Long Chen. That Yu Shaoqian was willing to sacrifice her life to let you escape back in the Jiuli's secret realm. She clearly is a woman who cares deeply about emotions and relationships, said Meng Qi. Long Chen smiled. Originally, he had just been probing Meng Qi's attitude toward Yu Shaoqian by bringing her up. You wouldn't be opposed to the matter between me and Yu Shaoqian, right? Long Chen solemnly held Meng Qi's hand. She cares so much for you and is also willing to sacrifice her life for you. She even bitterly endured her own sorrows for fear of implicating you. How could I be opposed to such a woman? Meng Qi shook her head. You really are the best. This magnanimous and vast heart of yours is my blessing. Long Chen excitedly hugged Meng Qi and gave her a kiss. He knew that someone as kind as Meng Qi was the best person to talk to about this. As long as she wasn't opposed to this, then this matter would be easy. However, you shouldn't tell Wan'er for now. That girl's spiritual yuan is wind attribute, and her temperament is also like wind and fire. She's extremely direct, and she won't be happy if you let her know, warned Meng Qi. Then what am I supposed to do? Asked Long Chen. Fool, didn't you say that you and Shaoqian would reunite? Wait for then. Once everyone gets a chance to know each other, you can bring up this matter again. Wan'er isn't unreasonable. Her temperament is just too direct, and if you simply bring it up out of nowhere, she'll think you were fickle-hearted and went out to seduce Shaoqian. But once everyone is familiar with each other and becomes friends, she won't feel that rejection. In fact, even if you don't bring it up, she might help you pull her in. With Wan'er's direct temperament, she's amenable to soft tactics, not hard tactics, said Meng Qi. Wife, you really are the best. Let me give you a kiss. Long Chen emotionally moved in. No, you'll want a mile if I give you an inch. Meng Qi covered Long Chen's mouth with her hand. No, I definitely wouldn't do such a thing. I just want to express my gratefulness. I won't believe your lies. This is already the 17th time you've done this. I might have fallen for it the first 16 times, But this time, in the end, Long Chen didn't manage to get his way. But he was extremely grateful to Meng Qi. She was definitely the best of all his beauties. Meng Qi asked Long Chen about his plans. He told her that he would refine a large number of sea-merging pills for everyone so that they could expand their qi seas to their limits before reaching the first heaven stage. Now that their initial seas had formed, they would need a certain amount of time to adapt to their dantians. During this time, it was possible to use medicinal pills to expand the sea again. It was said that as long as the medicinal pills were strong enough, it was possible to increase the size of the qi sea by 30% before entering the first heaven stage. 30% was a shocking concept. For human cultivators, this could determine life and death. But this was just in theory. The quality of the medicinal pills determined everything. So Long Chen had come over in order to borrow the Earth Dragon's core flame. Long Chen extracted the Earth Dragon's core flame, using it as his pill flame. But during this time, the Earth Dragon entered a feeble state. It fainted, seeming almost dead. But there was no way around it. His Earth Flame was still in slumber, and so he couldn't refine higher quality sea-merging pills. So Long Chen got to work immediately. His goal was to refine 9-ring sea-merging pills. Only pills of that level could allow them to expand their seas to their limits. For normal experts, increasing their qi si by 10% this second time around would be exceptional. But Long Chen was seeking the greatest possible results. He refined for 7 days and nights without sleep, refining over 600 9-ring sea-merging pills, as well as over 2,000 that were below the 9-ring level. He had Guoran rapidly distribute these pills. The amount of 9-ring pills should be enough for his people to reach the pinnacle with quite a few leftovers. As for the remaining ones, he put them away. He was planning on selling them to gain more resources. After all, sea-merging pills were essentially extinct in the outside world. Returning the Earth Dragon Golden Blaze to the Earth Dragon, Long Chen also gifted it some of the beast flames he had been raising in his body to make up for the damage. It would allow its core flame to grow even stronger. Long Chen, you aren't going into seclusion with everyone else? Asked Meng Qi. Long Chen sighed. Song Mingyuan and Li Qi are still missing. I have to find them. But they're my brothers. I have to find them no matter. If they're alive, I want to see them. If they're dead, I want to see their corpses. Otherwise, I wouldn't be fit to be called boss. Long Chen gently rubbed Meng Qi's cheek. I know my temperament is aggravating and even sometimes stupid, but there's no way for me to change it. I won't be able to have peace of mind until I find them. Don't worry, my qi si is different from yours. All of you can focus on increasing your power. I'm the one most suited to finding them. After settling all that, Long Chen left with a specialized sensor device Guoran had given him. Right now, his greatest hope was that 2 of their lives were hardy enough. Even after 3 days of searching, there weren't the slightest vibrations from the sensor device. To search for the 2 of them, Long Chen had picked out 9 paths they could have gone after parting with Wild. These 9 paths were all paths to the trial regions. With the 10,000 beast forest at the center, these 9 paths were the most likely ones they would have taken. But after 3 days, he had already gone through 8 of them without finding anything. If he still didn't find anything on this 9th path, he would have to extend his search region on each of the 9 paths again. That would waste even more time. It had been over 7 months since the immemorial path had opened. There were less than 5 months until it closed. He was pressed for time. All the experts were in the midst of a metamorphosis. Once they came out of their seclusions, they would be true experts, and there would definitely be a bloody battle fought in the immemorial path. At that time, the righteous and corrupt paths would fill the sky with blood. But this time, the righteous path was clearly too weak. Furthermore, because of his enmity with Xueyu, the next time they fought would be to settle everything. Even facing such opponents, Long Chen wasn't afraid. The thing he was afraid of was losing his brothers. So he had to find them. Even if they were dead, he had to bring back their bones. He couldn't let them rest forever in this foreign world. A day later, Long Chen's expression was dark. The sensor device still hadn't found anything on the 9th path. In this huge immemorial path, searching for a person was like searching for a needle in a haystack. The 9 paths he had picked were just the ones the 2 of them would most likely have chosen. But who could say for sure just where they had gone? Long Chen stood in front of a barren desert. There was a trial region below, but Long Chen had no heart to check what treasures there were. With the sensor device Guoran had made, he would be able to sense them if they were within 3,000 miles. If it didn't sense anything here, it meant they weren't in this desert. Long Chen sighed deeply. Calming his mood, he prepared himself to start a new search. Just at that moment, space shook. A terrifying attack shattered the void as it came for Long Chen's back. The attack had practically broken space-time. It had come without the slightest premonition. Long Chen was startled. The attack only accumulated energy for the blink of an eye before possessing such power. With a thought, Blood Drinker appeared in his hand. His spiritual yuan poured into it, and without looking back, he slashed his saber behind him. Boom! Heaven and earth shook. Long Chen felt a burst of pain in his arm and blew back like a lightning bolt. He shot 300 miles across the ground. He was absolutely shocked. Just who was so terrifying? Right now, everyone had only just advanced to see expansion. But this person's power had already reached such a monstrous level. Suddenly, sword light filled the sky. Like falling stars, they shot toward Long Chen, and an aura of death enveloped him. This attack contained boundless killing intent. Long Chen's heart shook. He knew he had encountered a terrifying opponent. His saber danced, forming a web of saber chi. The sword chi crashed onto his defensive net, causing heaven-shaking explosions. That power turned Long Chen's arms numb, and he was forced to repeatedly fall back. When the sword chi faded, Long Chen finally saw a figure wearing a black cloak. But before he could clearly appraise that figure, a huge sword image pierced the sky, parting the clouds. With boundless killing intent, it once more slashed at Long Chen like a devil's blade. Long Chen frowned. His divine ring appeared behind him. The 3,000-meter, 4-color ring shook heaven and earth. Blood Drinker pointed toward the sky, and its blood-colored runes lit up. Split the heavens too. Boom. A saber image crashed with a sword image. This was a world-shaking collision. Screens of light appeared in the void, constantly twisting and appearing incredibly shocking. The cloak his attacker was wearing couldn't bear the force of this attack, and it was torn to pieces. His attacker's face was revealed, stunning Long Chen. An elegant, jade-like figure with hair that fell to her waist. The most stunning part of her was her blue eyes that were like sapphires. They shone like the sky's stars had fallen into them. In this world, only she possessed such a look. Leng Yuan. Long Chen was first stunned, but then he raged, "Do you have a mental illness?" Leng Yuan had attacked without the slightest mercy. Her attacks had been full of killing intent, and there was no way she could argue that she had not been trying to kill him. Leng Yuan's delicate mouth curved into a smile. She resheathed her bone sword behind her back and said, "Don't be so angry. Didn't I say that I'd give you a greeting before killing you? You. Let me warn you, stay further away from me. I'm not the old me. If you provoke me again, even I don't know what will happen. When I get mad, sometimes I even beat myself," raged Long Chen. He truly was intimidated by this crazy woman. Leng Yuan had also reached sea expansion, and now her spiritual yuan was extremely strange, completely different from before. It contained death chi. Furthermore, there was something else to her spiritual yuan. There was some hidden energy within it. When fighting against her, it was like there had been a death god staring at him from behind. That was an extremely strange feeling. Ah, Long Chen's words caused Leng Yuan to laugh. "You really are different from before. I can sense it just from the test I did. Excellent. I was originally going to kill you this time to finish up everything here before leaving. However, your growth has exceeded my expectations. If we fight to the end, the most likely result is that we'll both die. That's not the result I want, so I can only say goodbye to you now. You want to leave? Great. It's great you can have a good rest. After all, for a lady to wander outside must be tiring. If you can find a suitable person, you should just go marry them and leave it at that instead of spending all day fighting and killing, advised Long Chen. Leng Yuan smiled. Don't be so happy yet. You're the man I've set my sights on. It took a long time for me to find such an excellent target. I'll be relying on your support to live in the future. Other than that, let me give you a piece of bad news. I've looked through this entire world and finally found what I wanted. Once I return, I'll go into seclusion. Let us meet again once I come out. After saying that, Leng Yuan winked at Long Chen amicably and flirtatiously. For a beauty to do such a thing was an extremely moving sight. But Long Chen's hair stood on end and cold sweat covered his back. Hearing that this crazy woman had actually had her own goal in coming into the immemorial path and that she had obtained that goal, her power once she came out of seclusion would be. Do you really have to kill me? Sighed Long Chen. Yes. You're the greatest target I've found in my life, said Leng Yuan. If you one day die beneath my hands, will you feel regret? No regret. To die to the man I acknowledge would be my best fate, said Leng Yuan, her gaze just as staunch as Long Chen's. Then sorry, sighed Long Chen. Why? My life isn't just my own. My life belongs to my brothers, my beauties, to each person who cares for me. If you kill me, they'll be hurt, aggrieved, and pained. I definitely won't allow anyone to hurt the people by my side. So the next time you come to kill me, I will go all out killing you. I definitely won't be merciful, said Long Chen. Long Chen was furious. If Leng Yuan wasn't so terrifyingly powerful, perhaps he wouldn't have to kill her. But Leng Yuan had the power to kill him, and he couldn't play with his life nor could he play with the emotions of his comrades. Leng Yuan looked at Long Chen for a long time before sighing. Long Chen, you might be the most outstanding man I've seen, but I can't abandon my goal. Perhaps that's very selfish, but there isn't anyone in this world that isn't selfish, including gods. Perhaps you don't understand, perhaps you think I'm crazy, but as long as you can continue to live until the end, you will understand the reason behind this. Long Chen really was unable to understand her ridiculous goal. But the Eastern Wasteland Belle had said that she had her own reason that forced her to act like this. Long Chen wasn't someone who wanted to be friends with everyone. He was a selfish person. No matter what his opponent's reason was, as long as they wanted to kill him, he wouldn't be merciful with his counterattack. This time would be Leng Yuan's last warning. Be careful. When Shui Yu and the others advanced to rank 4 Celestials, they awakened their bloodline power, and their combat power has greatly increased. Regretfully, I'm in a hurry to leave, otherwise, I really would want to see his power. Remember, you are mine, and you can only die to my hands. Don't get slaughtered by anyone else. Leng Yuan reached out her hands and helped Long Chen tidy his slightly disarrayed robes. Long Chen was shocked by her actions. Even this killing goddess had a warm side? Long Chen didn't recover for a long time after Leng Yuan left. But suddenly, a soft sound woke him. They're here, cried Long Chen. The sensor device had actually sensed something. Long Chen hastily took out the sensor device. He saw a small arrow pointing to some extremely faint fluctuations. He hastily rushed off in that direction. After just a few miles, Long Chen had to stop. A huge abyss had appeared. It was even bigger than the abyss he and Leng Yuan had fallen into. They couldn't have. Long Chen looked at the sensor device with bewilderment. Once he was in front of the abyss, his heart sank. The arrow was pointing down into the abyss. They actually fell down. Now this matter was grave. If they had fallen down this abyss, then even 10,000 lives wouldn't have been enough. When he and Leng Yuan had gone all out and worked together, they had only managed to escape with their lives because of a coincidence. But Li Qi and Song Mingyuan had only been at the Xiantian realm when they had left. There was no way they could have survived. Thinking of that, sadness crept across Long Chen's face. Although he had known the chances of them surviving were remote, he had still been hopeful. Now that he was facing this result, he couldn't accept it. No! Long Chen suddenly realized something was off. If they really had fallen to the bottom of an abyss, the terrifying spatial blades would have torn them to pieces. Even the sensor devices on their bodies should have been destroyed. They have to still be down there. Long Chen's heart jumped. Looking down at the abyss, he clenched his teeth and asked the Eastern Wasteland Bell, "Senior, if I go down, do you have the power to bring me up?" "That's no problem, but it would use up one of your favors. Think about it carefully. For two people who are likely dead, you are sacrificing a life-saving opportunity. Is it worth it?" warned the Eastern Wasteland Bell. "Of course it's worth it. Anything is worth it for my brothers. Since I know they're below, I have to go down. Even if what I find is their corpses, it's worth it," said Long Chen. "Sometimes I find you really are incurably stupid. But I like this stupidity of yours," said the Eastern Wasteland Bell. Its voice contained the slightest bit of gratification and admiration. "So then you're saying it's no problem?" asked Long Chen. "Of course. I am the Eastern Wasteland Bell. Even in my broken-down state, such a minor matter is nothing," said the Eastern Wasteland Bell indifferently. But its voice clearly contained its own arrogance. "All right, then I'm going down. Go in peace." "Go in peace?" Long Chen was speechless. Those words seemed rather ominous. "Let me say it another way. With me present, you can be at ease as you go." The Eastern Wasteland Bell also seemed to have sensed that its words were a bit odd and changed them. "Is there any difference?" Long Chen rolled his eyes. "Did people from ancient times all talk this way? Are you going or not?" raged the Eastern Wasteland Bell. Long Chen jumped down into the abyss. This time, he was completely on guard. He did his best to control his own descent speed. He found that it was the same as the last abyss. He could only go down, not up. Now that he had jumped down, he had no way back up. He slowly descended. As he got deeper, his surroundings got darker. He suddenly found that this abyss was even deeper than the one he had previously encountered. Eventually, the sliver of the sky disappeared. But there still weren't any fluctuations from below. After another 2 hours, there were finally some spatial fluctuations. Minute spatial blades began to appear. But these spatial blades were gentle, almost like feathers. They didn't contain any offensive power. Furthermore, by stepping on them, it was possible to slow his descent. In fact, he could even stay stationary in the air. As he continued downwards, he gradually began to feel like something was off. He was hearing some faint rumbling from very, very far down. That had to be some terrifying force. It made his scalp numb. 100 miles down, the spatial blades were starting to grow powerful. But he still didn't see any sign of Song Mingyuan or Li Qi. However, the sensor device's vibrations were growing more and more intense. He was clearly getting closer to them. The spatial blades here were now spinning. Long Chen had no choice but to take out Blood Drinker. This time, Long Chen wasn't as miserable as last time. These spatial blades weren't able to pose much of a threat to him. Blood Drinker was able to destroy any one of them with a single slash. There ahead, Long Chen suddenly noticed a huge, ancient tower below him. It was 100 miles long and was stuck diagonally into the side of the abyss, keeping it from falling to the bottom. Long Chen immediately began moving toward it. As expected, as soon as he jumped onto it, the sensor device's vibrating grew to a new level. The two of them had to be in the ancient tower. If it weren't for this ancient tower, they would have fallen to the bottom of the abyss and been exterminated by the spatial blades. There would be nothing left. The ancient tower was piercing the abyss's cliff. It had been split open and he easily entered inside. The fact that the tower hadn't been completely destroyed after falling such a distance showed that it was actually exceptionally sturdy. Long Chen saw 2 sets of footprints in the dusty tower's floor. He was delighted and hastily rushed deeper into the tower. "Song Mingyuan, Li Qi," he shouted loudly. His voice reached every corner of the tower, but he didn't hear their response nor did he sense their auras. That made Long Chen's heart sink once more. He hastily continued deeper. When he reached the peak of the tower, he saw 2 earth statues. They were Song Mingyuan and Li Qi. Long Chen was startled. The 2 statues were Song Mingyuan and Li Qi, but their life auras had disappeared. They were standing there, wrapped in earth. Earth Spirit Bead. This tower actually had an earth spirit bead protecting it? Regretfully, the formations were broken, and there was no one to look after the earth spirit bead. It actually gave birth to its own intelligence and wants to devour their soul essence, said the Eastern Wasteland Bell. Only now did Long Chen see a huge sphere up ahead. It was 3 meters in diameter and covered in dust. He had just entered this region when his foot was suddenly caught by a powerful strand of earth energy. He instantly became encased in earth just like Song Mingyuan and Li Qi. This earth possessed its own powerful energy that was binding Long Chen. He felt like he was buried beneath endless earth. That pressure made it so he couldn't move. Break! With a loud bang, the earth around Long Chen exploded. This earth was extremely powerful. Perhaps it could trap even sea expansion celestials, but it was far from enough to bind Long Chen. After breaking his earth seal, Long Chen extended his hands and pressed them against the foreheads of Song Mingyuan and Li Qi. He broke away the earth, touching their skin. Good. They hid their souls in their Niwen. They hadn't dissipated yet. Long Chen was delighted. The so-called Niwen was located in the middle of a person's head. It was also called the Niwen Palace and was the spring which gave birth to a cultivator's spiritual strength. When the earth seal had covered him, Long Chen had sensed a special energy from the earth trying to absorb his soul. As for Song Mingyuan and Li Qi, they had been unable to fight against that absorption, so they had sealed their own souls in their Niwen Palace, which had made them enter a state of quasi-death. That was the only way to slow down the absorption of their souls. However, even if they had sealed their spiritual strength in their Niwens, they still weren't able to completely stop it. The only thing they could do was stall for more time. Their spiritual strength was extremely weak now, and the flames of their souls were almost extinguished. It was no wonder he hadn't sensed their life auras. Long Chen's powerful spiritual strength gently entered their Niwens, nourishing their souls. As he did so, their souls were like dry riverbeds finally receiving nourishment and recovering. At the same time as they recovered, another kind of energy was absorbing quite a bit of Long Chen's spiritual strength. He sensed that it was being sent to the large sphere. Long Chen's mouth curled into a cold smile. He allowed it to continue absorbing his spiritual strength. Song Mingyuan and Li Qi's souls were extremely weak, and so Long Chen didn't give them too much spiritual strength at first. Boss! It was several hours before their souls finally awoke. Seeing Long Chen in front of them, they were startled and delighted, but also ashamed. "Recover your souls fully first," said Long Chen. Although the two had awoken, their spiritual strength was still weak. They needed more time to recover to their peak. "Boss, we're sorry," said Li Qi. He felt himself to be too useless. He had wanted to get stronger, but the result was that he had just caused trouble for Long Chen. "There's no need for such words between brothers. I have to admire the two of you. Can you tell me how you ended up here?" asked Long Chen as he continued pouring in his spiritual strength. He was curious, had the two of them wanted to get stronger so badly that they had gone insane? Had they decided to follow the legends of people jumping off cliffs in search of opportunity? It was that bastard Yu Qianshan. He joined forces with Zhao Wuji to chase us down. We weren't able to beat them, so we were forced into this abyss, raged Song Mingyuan. He hated those two to the core now, but they hadn't been able to defeat them. "Alright, don't be so mad. If you want revenge, you can get it once we get out. Once you see those two, just directly crush them." Long Chen smiled. These two really were unlucky. They had fallen here not long after entering the immemorial path. After being sealed here for so long, they didn't even know what had happened outside. As for Zhao Wuji and Yu Qianshan, they were just rank 2 celestials. To the current Long Chen, rank 2 celestials were weaker than cannon fodder. An hour later, their souls had fully recovered. But Long Chen still kept them encased in the earth. "Alright, be careful. I will help you refine this earth spirit bead. It might be a bit painful, but endure it." After saying that, Long Chen's spiritual strength suddenly spurted out wildly, and the two of them immediately felt a burst of pain in their souls. Although the two of them had been warned by Long Chen, they still screamed. They felt like their souls were being torn apart. Originally, half the spiritual strength Long Chen had been sending them had been absorbed by the earth spirit bead. But were his things ever so easy to snatch? It had always been Long Chen snatching things from others, and when others snatched things from him, they had to pay a steep price. Long Chen hadn't stopped the earth spirit bead from absorbing his spiritual strength. In fact, he had intentionally given it his purest spiritual strength. Once that spiritual strength entered the earth spirit bead, it began to spread, merging with every bit of the bead. The earth spirit bead was a spiritual treasure that only heaven and earth could give birth to. Because it had been nourished by the tower for so long, it had grown stronger, having its own intelligence. It had actually instinctively decided to absorb their souls to nourish itself. That would make it even more intelligent. In truth, although it was powerful, its current intelligence wasn't very high. Absorbing their spiritual strength had just been an instinct. As for Long Chen's spiritual strength, it just foolishly absorbed as much as it could. It didn't know that once his spiritual strength entered its body, it merged with all its core energy, making it so that the two could no longer be separated. Now that the opportunity had opened, his spiritual strength erupted and all of it was retracted. His spiritual strength pulled away all the earth spirit bead's core energy. What was entering their bodies was not only a massive amount of spiritual strength, but also boundless earth energy. It ravished their bodies, making them feel like their bodies and souls were about to explode. They continuously screamed. "What are you shouting about? Don't you feel embarrassed to shout? Weren't you willing to give up anything, including your lives, in order to get stronger? You're going to scream from this little bit of pain?" Raged Long Chen. They hadn't listened to him, so Long Chen refused to slow down the energy flow. In fact, he didn't even suppress the earth spirit bead's retaliation, making the two of them endure it. Even since he had heard that the two of them had gone out on their own, there had been a stone on his heart. Now that he knew they were alive, they needed some punishment. Hearing Long Chen's words, the two of them actually did feel too embarrassed to continue screaming. They staunchly clenched their teeth. But it was truly too painful. The superposition of physical and spiritual pain made it so that their eyes were about to pop out and large veins bulged on their foreheads. Finally, the earth spirit bead realized something was wrong and began to crazily retaliate. At this time, Long Chen had no choice but to suppress it with his spiritual strength, or that power would make them explode. Don't just clench your teeth and wait for it to be over. Hurry and absorb this power. Gather it on top of your spirit root. In the future, you'll be earth attribute experts, said Long Chen. Now the two of them didn't just need to endure the pain. They also had to remain focused and absorb the unending earth energy. After 2 hours, the huge sphere cracked. The earth spirit bead's earth energy had all been extracted and given to Li Qi and Song Mingyuan. Long Chen suddenly felt a burst of weariness. The earth spirit bead was a treasure that had given birth to its own intelligence. The amount of earth energy inside it could be likened to an ocean. He had exhausted a great deal of his spiritual strength to handle it. Song Mingyuan and Li Qi didn't disappoint him. They had both become earth attribute experts and were now lying on the ground like lumps of mud. They had almost fainted several times during this torment, but in order to absorb more energy, they had endured it. "We're sorry, boss." When the two of them finally recovered enough energy to speak, their first words were still the same. They were ashamed enough to die. The fact that Long Chen had come down here to search for them made them gratified, but it made them feel even worse. "It's fine. Seeing your expressions just now, I feel much better." "Don't bring it up again," said Long Chen. He examined their surroundings. The two of them had equally split the immense energy within the earth spirit bead. Now that they possessed earth energy, Long Chen's plans changed. Originally, he was going to ask the Eastern Wasteland Bell to bring them up. But now that these two had earth energy, why not have them dig a cave out? Although it might take an exorbitant amount of energy for them, it could be treated as part of their punishment. "Long Chen, you don't need to worry about leaving here. Help me out. Go down to the bottom of the abyss so I can figure out exactly what happened to the immemorial path." The Eastern Wasteland Bell's voice suddenly rang out in Long Chen's head. "What? I'll be killed by the spatial blades," said Long Chen. "I'll protect you." I can't go down by myself. Before things come to light, it's not convenient for me to reveal my body. I need your help, said the Eastern Wasteland Belle. Then be careful. I only have this one life and it's very important. Don't make me lose it accidentally. Long Chen bitterly smiled. You two can rest here. I'm going out for a trip. I'll be right back. Not waiting for them to reply, Long Chen flew out of the tower, descending down. In truth, he also wanted to know just what secrets lay at the bottom of these abysses. Last time with Leng Yuan, he had vaguely seen a huge chain. But before he could see any more details, he had been forced to flee for his life. Now, the spatial blades were even stronger than before. They came one by one, but this time, Long Chen didn't need to block them. A layer of light appeared over his body, smashing apart any of those spatial blades. After descending more, he saw what was essentially a region of death. Countless spatial blades were clashing here, and space was constantly rumbling. Long Chen felt his scalp turn numb. These powerful spatial blades were as big as a mountain. When they struck him, fierce ripples appeared on the barrier around him. He really was worried that the Eastern Wasteland Belle wouldn't be able to handle it, and he would be instantly blown to bits. The only comforting thing was that the Eastern Wasteland Belle was very reliable. Even when those terrifying spatial blades struck him, its barriers still blocked them. Finally, they were getting close to the bottom. But the Eastern Wasteland Belle told Long Chen to slide down from the wall. Those stone walls had been compressed by the spatial blades to the point that they were incredibly hard. After another, even more berserk sea of spatial blades, Long Chen finally saw the bottom of the abyss. When he saw it, his hair immediately stood on end. He saw that the block of land he was sliding down was actually an island, floating in the air. Below it was an endless sea of blood. That sea of blood was filled with surging blood qi. Even Long Chen felt terrified by it. There were huge chains within the blood, chains which connected to the bottom of the land blocks. Certain lines on the chains would occasionally light up. Continue forward. The Eastern Wasteland Belle pointed out a direction for Long Chen. He continued, flying above the sea of blood. The sea of blood was still, but it filled his nose with a pungent smell. Blood. There was human blood and magical beast blood. Just what was going on? What had happened for there to be this much blood? Long Chen was like a small, insignificant fly compared to the sea. It was just enormous. Later, Long Chen realized his speed was increasing. The Eastern Wasteland Belle must have been unsatisfied with his speed and was increasing it. The floating blocks passed one by one over his head. Long Chen shuddered. At this speed, if he crashed into one of those blocks, he would be squashed to death. This speed was too dangerous. He didn't know how far he had flown before his speed gradually slowed down. Following the Eastern Wasteland Belle's instructions, he went along the wall of a block, slowly moving forward. When he reached the end, he raised his head and looked around. What is that? Long Chen was shocked to see a huge altar. Countless chains connected to it. There was a mountain-sized skull on the altar. It looked like a human skull, but it was huge. The skull floated atop the altar, revolving ever so slowly. As it revolved, strange runes appeared in the air. Long Chen could almost sense strange energy flowing through the chains and into the altar. As he looked in horror at this unimaginable scene, the skull slowly turned to face him. He looked into its empty eye sockets. There were actually blue flames within them, and it seemed to be able to see him. Long Chen suddenly felt like his soul was about to flee from his body. A fierce sensation of death filled him from head to toe. It sees me. Long Chen was horrified. His intuition told him that this skull was somehow alive. A ray of light shot out from the skull's eyes, and Long Chen immediately felt the despair of death. He was locked down. This power was impossible to resist. The difference was too great. He was an ant against an elephant. This difference could make a person give up all hope. Leave. Boom. A powerful explosion rocked Long Chen. The land block beside him was shattered. He even thought that he had also been blown to bits. But the scene in front of him suddenly changed. He appeared at the place where he had jumped down into the abyss. Li Qi and Song Mingyuan were beside him, stunned. Everything he had seen was like a dream. "Senior, forget everything you just saw. Act like nothing happened, and definitely don't bring it up to anyone. You aren't at the level of being able to participate in any of this," warned the Eastern Wasteland Bell. Long Chen was deeply shaken. Perhaps he had just come into contact with a terrifying secret, which was why the Eastern Wasteland Bell was warning him so gravely. He nodded. Overthinking such things wasn't good and would simply cause disorder in one's heart. He directly acted like it had never happened. He gave Li Qi and Song Mingyuan rank 3 Heavenly Dao fruits and the peak-grade Divine Mortal Molting Elixir. Then while the remnants of the spiritual Qi eruption were still present, they quickly underwent their tribulations to enter Sea expansion. The two of them managed to expand their Qi seas to 2,500 miles, which was beyond Long Chen's expectation of just 2,000 miles. The Earth Spirit Bead must have helped them more than he had thought. Once they had advanced, he brought them back to Meng Qi's location. The Dragon Blood warriors were finally all located. Long Chen's heart was finally at ease. Now was the time to refine the true dragon essence blood. Once he returned to Meng Qi's location, Long Chen found an isolated place to take out the dragon scale. His heart was pounding quickly. He was finally at the level of being able to refine this true dragon essence blood. He was now in the Sea expansion realm, and his 4 stars had all reached the great circle of perfection. As his physical body had reached an unprecedented level, it was time. Long Chen gulped as he took out the dragon scale. This was the treasure the dragon expert had left for him, what he had to rely on to train in the dragon blood body tempering art. Last time he had tried to refine this, he had still been in the Shintian Dao sect. Back then he had failed miserably and almost died. But this time, Long Chen was confident in being able to refine it with his new power. "Do you have any last words?" Just as Long Chen was about to extract the blood in the scale, the Eastern Wasteland Bell's voice rang out. "Senior, what do you mean?" Long Chen was startled. "What I mean is, once you draw that true dragon essence blood into your body and try to refine it, you'll definitely die. So do you have any last words?" "Once you die, I'll tell your friends. It can count as resolving the karma between us," said the Eastern Wasteland Bell indifferently. Long Chen jumped. "What are you talking about? That mysterious expert said that as long as my physical body was able to endure 1,000 caddies of force, I would be able to refine this blood." This matter was too important, and the dragon expert had told Long Chen not to tell anyone about it. So he simply said it was a mysterious expert. Mysterious expert? Whoever that was, they overestimated you, or perhaps they underestimated the change in the world. My guess is that the mysterious expert of yours said that in accordance with the standard of a rank 9 celestial. However, even a rank 9 celestial blessed with heavenly Dao energy would most likely die upon refining this drop of blood. That essence blood you're holding isn't ordinary true dragon essence blood. It comes from an emperor bloodline amongst the dragon race. Although it's just from a green dragon, it cannot be directly absorbed because of its incomparable purity. Furthermore, if you then attempt to refine it without the assistance of the heavenly Daos, you'll have to rely on yourself for everything. Furthermore, you don't know any techniques. If you just directly devour it like this, once you try drawing out its energy, your body will immediately explode. No way! Long Chen began to sweat. With the Eastern Wasteland Bell's experience, it definitely wouldn't just be messing around. Since this was what it was saying, it seemed that if he really tried to refine the blood, he would die. Then what am I supposed to do? Fine. I've gained quite a bit from you, so helping you with something minor shouldn't invoke karma. I will teach you a sealing technique. Your physical body is powerful, so drawing the dragon blood into your body isn't a problem. But if you try to refine it, the dragon blood will instinctively struggle. That's not something you can endure. So you have to seal the dragon blood in your body, and then slowly refine its energy over time. That's the best method. Long Chen followed the Eastern Wasteland Bell's instructions, setting up a strange formation in his body with his spiritual yuan. The formation rested on top of his dantian. It was like a spider web, and once it was finished, Long Chen pressed his finger against the dragon scale. A drop of blood surged into Long Chen's arm. He immediately felt a burst of pain, as well as a powerful attack from the blood. He hastily focused. This attack was what had almost killed him last time. But now that he was ready for it, it didn't threaten his life again. As the drop of blood passed through his arm, Long Chen felt his own blood heating up. Some of his blood began to incinerate, and the intense pain made him clench his teeth. This drop of dragon blood was like lava that had entered his body. He felt like all his blood was about to vaporize. He finally understood why the Eastern Wasteland Bell had said he was going to die. All he had done was draw it into his body, but it had caused such a reaction. If he were to attempt to refine it, he really would be done for. However, Long Chen was extremely curious. That dragon expert wouldn't harm him. Why hadn't it told him any of this? If it weren't for the Eastern Wasteland Bell, wouldn't he have just stupidly died? The drop of blood finally entered the seal above his dantian. Once it was sealed, it didn't react. It just quietly lay there. But when Long Chen tried to refine it, it suddenly released a blinding light, and a powerful force erupted out of it. Long Chen felt like his body was about to shatter. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, filled with shock. He hastily used the formation to once more suppress it. But now that he had tried to refine it, the dragon blood continued to struggle as if it were alive. Having sensed the threat of death, it tried to struggle free of its restrictions. Now Long Chen was truly grateful toward the Eastern Wasteland Bell. He activated the formation, pouring in the energy of his 4 chi seas and forcibly suppressing the dragon blood's counterattack. In truth, as soon as the dragon blood had released its power, the primal chaos bead had begun to slowly circulate. But when the formation suppressed the dragon blood, it once more returned to its calm state. It was just that none of that had been noticed by Long Chen, as he had been focused on the dragon blood. Don't be in a rush to refine it. Make sure it's completely sealed first, said the Eastern Wasteland Bell. Through 6 hours of work, even with his 4 chi seas, Long Chen was covered in sweat. He was exhausted, but he had finally fully sealed the dragon blood. The dragon blood was sealed, but Long Chen had no energy to try refining it again. He had to recover first. Only after recovering did he try it again. This time, it went smoothly. It was unknown whether the dragon blood had accepted its fate and given up on fighting back, or whether the formation had wiped away its ability to resist. Traces of green blood were coming out of it now, spreading throughout his body. Long Chen hastily began circulating the dragon blood body tempering art. The dragon blood body tempering art was an extremely particular cultivation technique. As he circulated it, the blood energy merged with his own blood. However, they were like water and oil. Although they were together, they refused to fully merge. Long Chen ignored that and continued to circulate the technique, as well as absorbing more energy. He was shocked to find that he had still underestimated this drop of dragon blood. The amount of energy inside it could only be described as an ocean's worth. It wasn't something he could completely refine in a short time. He spent 6 hours, but he didn't notice any significant decrease in its energy. On the other hand, he was starting to become unable to continue. The energy from the dragon blood made him feel like his blood vessels would explode. At this time, Long Chen finally realized that the dragon blood body tempering art was trying to replace his blood. The dragon blood was too domineering, and it was constantly incinerating his original blood. Long Chen didn't dare to refine it too fast for fear his blood would run dry. He had to take things slowly. The dragon blood's energy was flowing throughout every inch of his body along with his own blood. As the practically imperceptible strands of energy spread, they merged into every single cell. Long Chen felt like his body was in a furnace, and the intense pain could only be called torture. The crux of the dragon blood body tempering art was to use a dragon's essence blood to replace a human's essence blood. However, that process required the body to first get accustomed to the dragon blood's energy. His own blood was still much weaker than dragon blood. So despite feeling like his physical body had reached a peak, he immediately felt the impact of the dragon blood's energy. His physical body was still too weak. But the dragon blood body tempering art was slowly improving his body bit by bit, allowing his body to get accustomed to it. This was a gradual process. Right now, he had just absorbed a trace of the dragon blood's energy to nourish his body, but that was already taxing. If he had tried to refine it all at once, then it would have been like what the Eastern Wasteland Belle had said. He would have died. This first nourishing process took 3 days, and only then did Long Chen's body get accustomed to it. He was pleasantly surprised to find that his body had clearly grown stronger and tougher. He was full of anticipation for the rest of the dragon blood body tempering art. After these 3 days, Long Chen told Meng Qi, who had been standing guard for him while he had been in seclusion, that there was no longer any need for that. Now, there was no longer any danger. Even if someone came to disturb him, he would only have to temporarily pause the refinement. He wouldn't be in any danger. Meng Qi called back the blood phoenix. With it and the earth dragon protecting them, they didn't need to have any worries. She also went into seclusion with Long Chen. Meng Qi focused on expanding her Qi Si, while Long Chen focused on refining the energy in the dragon blood. At this time, practically all the disciples in the immemorial path were in seclusion. They were expanding their Qi Sis to their limits before their realm stabilized. This moment was too important, and no one dared to be the slightest bit negligent. The current immemorial path was like a deep pool of water. It was frighteningly calm. The aboriginals were also silent. They sent all their women and children to safer places. Each time the spiritual Qi eruption ended, the invaders would launch attacks against them to snatch their resources. But this time, the aboriginals were surprised to find that after Long Chen's tribulation, a change had occurred in heaven and earth. The curse they were under was slowly weakening. Although the curse was weakening extremely slowly, it was definitely weakening. Furthermore, the power of the formations on their ancestral lands was growing stronger, allowing them to increase their radius. In the future, they would have a wider range to move around in. Although the seniors refused to say anything about this matter, some of the younger disciples had guessed that it had to do with how Long Chen had torn apart the dome of the sky. His name was now something practically every single one of them knew. Time passed day by day. A full 3 months passed before the slumbering immemorial path began to awaken. Powerful auras began to rise one by one. Boom. A large mountain crumbled and soaring Qi waves surged into the sky. A long-haired man stood in the sky, 4 colored runes around him. Long Chen, the time for your death has come at last. My spirit blood has awakened, allowing me to comprehend the remote heaven canon. Just what will you use to fight me? A shout shook the sky. This person was the remote heaven gang's #1 expert, Ji Changkong. His spirit blood had awakened, and he had become a rank 4 celestial. Lord Changkong. A dozen righteous experts reverently bowed toward him. I've just reached the first heaven stage of sea expansion. I'll need a few days to completely stabilize my cultivation base and get accustomed to my new power. You are to spread out, gathering all the righteous experts. Spread the news that I've come out of seclusion as loudly as possible. This time, I want to teach Shui Yu, Yu Changhao, Huang Junmo, and the likes just who is the #1 person of the righteous path. Order Ji Changkong. Yes. However, we've heard that the Winchamp Pavilion's top disciple, Feng Yin, as well as the 7-star gate's Zheng Mingkong, have advanced to become rank 4 celestials. The 2 of them probably won't be so obedient, said one disciple. 2 nameless little sections. Did they think that just by hiding 2 talented disciples from others, they could rise? Laughable. What sect isn't formed through countless years and generations of accumulated efforts? If they don't know how to appreciate kindness, just have them die here, sneered Ji Changkong. Although he was a bit surprised that 2 such figures appeared out of nowhere, he didn't place them in his eyes. Small sects like theirs didn't possess a strong enough foundation. Even if they gave birth to talented disciples, their power would be limited. That had to do with the sect's foundation. There's also Long Chen, probed one person. I will personally cut off his head. But before I do so, I'll make him lose all his reputation. I'll make him an absolute villain targeted by everyone. Then even if I kill him, the Xiantian Dao sect won't be able to make a fart. Hatred flashed in Ji Changkong's eyes. The icy smile on his face made them shiver. Greetings, Lord Shuiyu. Hundreds of corrupt experts were bowing toward a slim man. This was the corrupt King Shuiyu. There weren't any fluctuations coming off of Shuiyu's body, but an indescribable feeling radiated from him, one that made people feel even more terrified. His devil eye was open. Countless runes revolved within it, looking like a starry sky. It was like it contained a universe that was filled with terrifying power. "What is happening outside?" asked Shuiyu, standing with his hands clasped behind his back. "We've investigated. 7 rank 4 celestials have appeared in the corrupt path," reported one disciple. 7? That's not bad. Looks like there are quite a few scheming people who hid themselves deeply. What are their plans? Do they wish to follow me? Shuiyu found this a bit unexpected. He had been focused on cultivating during this time, so he hadn't learned of what had happened in the outside yet. He had given the task of information gathering to others. Your subordinates were too slow. 3 of the 7 want to follow you, but they've been snatched away by Kawutu, said one disciple carefully. Kawutu? The one who provoked Leng Yueyan and was then tormented for a month? He still has the face to continue living? Shuiyu frowned. Yes. The Devil Empress once viewed him as a target to kill, but he was too weak, and each time he was defeated and then tormented. When talking about Leng Yueyan, all of them felt a cold breeze on their backs. That idiot! It was clearly Lord Shuiyu who saved him, but now he dares to challenge you. He really is courting death. Raged a corrupt expert. Saying that Shuiyu had saved him was a bit exaggerated. The truth was that Leng Yueyan had felt Kawutu to be too weak and had simply lost interest in him. So she had changed her target to Shuiyu. In truth, at that time, Leng Yueyan's fame hadn't been very illustrious in the corrupt path. It was because she had later set her sights on Shuiyu that her fame had increased. They had fought 3 great battles without a clear victor. Of course, those 3 battles had ended with Shuiyu miserably fleeing. The last time, he had almost been killed by her. He never mentioned the results of those battles, and Leng Yueyan also disdained to mention the topic, so the outside world thought that they were evenly matched. In the corrupt experts' eyes, only Shuiyu could fight against Leng Yueyan. They didn't know that if Shuiyu saw Leng Yueyan, he would immediately turn tail and flee. That idiot does have some ability. However, he cultivates the corpse devil path and has cultivated his own body into a withered corpse. It's too disgusting. Now that he has advanced to become a rank 4 celestial, my guess is his bloodline's blood corpse energy has awakened, making his physical body even stronger. That's why he dares to challenge me. Ignore him. When the time comes, I'll put them all in their place. If they don't appreciate my kindness, I'll directly kill them. My devil eye has completely awoken, so starting today, the corrupt path is mine to lead. Those who oppose me will die. I'll conveniently handle Leng Yueyan as well, letting her know that I am the true king of the corrupt path, said Shuiyu confidently. That's right, Lord Shuiyu, in a certain place, we noticed the 9 corrupt bone transportation formation. It should have been left by the Devil Empress, said a disciple. She left. Shuiyu was startled. He couldn't understand why Leng Yueyan had left at this time. But then he nodded. That's fine. I'll end her once I get out. Although he acted dissatisfied, he was actually relieved. Leng Yueyan's departure lightened the pressure on him a lot. What about on the side of the ancient races? Asked Shuiyu. The ancient races are a bit disorderly right now. Quite a few vicious fellows have appeared. They were previously a bit irritated with you, Changhao. 9 of them have just advanced to the 4th rank, and they've begun amassing troops, forming their own powers to declare dominance. That's normal. Those half-human, half-beast people have powerful bloodline powers. Once they reach the 4th rank, their bloodline power completely awakens, granting them immense power. As for Yu Changhao, he overestimated himself, thinking that he is unrivaled in close-range and long-range combat. That's why he often looked down and scoffed at people seeking asylum with him. Now that others have become rank 4 celestials, he's isolated. However, the ancient races are united. Even if they don't get along, they won't start an all-out war with each other. At most, They'll just work independently. That might be a good thing for us. What about the righteous path? Asked Shui Yu. On the side of the righteous path, there's nothing to worry about. After asking around, we found that other than Ji Changkong, they only have 2 rank 4 celestials from smaller sections. They're the isolated, poor kind of sections. Their combat power is probably only slightly greater than innate rank 3 celestials, sneered a corrupt expert. A person's strength could not be determined merely by cultivation base and talent. Their cultivation techniques, their magical arts, their weapons, and all the resources that had gone into them were also extremely important. Just good talent alone was useless. It could be said that geniuses were built up mostly by resources. To put it even more bluntly, they needed money. So whether it was Ji Changkong or Shui Yu, they didn't care about those 2 righteous experts. Such people weren't a threat. What about Long Qin? Is there any news? Shui Yu's eyes narrowed. When he mentioned this name, killing intent surged within his eyes. He hated Long Qin to the bone. Long Qin was the only one in this world to have ever cut off his head. That was an indescribable humiliation. This entire time, we were unable to even find Long Qin's shadow. He should still be in seclusion. However, we did hear that Ji Changkong is searching everywhere for Long Qin. Furthermore, he is offering a bounty for anyone in Long Qin's group. A bounty? Shui Yu was startled. Yes. Ji Changkong seems to want to rule the Eastern Wasteland's righteous path, using his power to intimidate all the righteous experts. Shui Yu nodded. I've heard of Ji Changkong. The remote Heaven Gang's Ji family not only has a secret canon inheritance, but it seems that a supreme expert once appeared amongst their ancestors. Perhaps he has some ability. Ji Changkong is in the midst of gathering all the righteous experts. He sent out an arrest warrant for Long Qin with a reward on it. Anyone who finds any of the people in Long Qin's group will be richly rewarded. The funniest thing was, there are 2 experts from the same sect as Long Qin, Zhao Wuji and Yu Qianshan, who have become Ji Changkong's underlings. They're saying that Long Qin has colluded with the Aboriginals to kill his fellow righteous experts. His group has become all the righteous path's targets, sneered a corrupt expert disdainfully. The righteous path was truly interesting. The others were also sneering in disdain. The righteous path was most skilled in this kind of game. Ji Changkong's confidence must have inflated to the point that he wanted to use the status of the Eastern Wasteland's righteous path's #1 expert to challenge the corrupt path. However, in order to become the Eastern Wasteland's righteous path's #1 expert, he had to first eliminate Long Qin. Long Qin truly did have relationships with the Aboriginals. The crime of forging secret ties with Aboriginals was a grave one, and there was proof. However, for the ones who accused Long Qin of working with Aboriginals to be the ones from his own sect was too laughable. Although Shui Yu hated Long Qin, he had no choice but to admit that Long Qin had his own pride and ability. Did he really need to collude with the Aboriginals to kill a few people from the righteous path? Just how small did a person's brain have to be to believe such a thing? They were clearly framing him, but there were so many people who believed it without question. Those people clearly knew the truth but were just acting. They felt that Ji Changkong was stronger than Long Qin. Long Qin hadn't appeared, and the people from his own sect had betrayed him. They simply acted according to the situation. What should we do now? There's no need to do anything. Just calmly watch what happens. With Ji Changkong present, we don't even need to do anything. He'll force Long Qin to come out. When it comes to scheming, we are lacking compared to the righteous path. We should just wait until both sides are exhausted to kill them all. This time, we'll win a perfect victory, not letting a single one of those righteous experts to leave alive, said Shui Yu. Ever since the righteous path had gained Long Qin, the corrupt path had run into setback after setback, irritating the higher-ups. Long Qin had been #1 on their must-kill list for a long time now, but he was still alive and healthy. That was a humiliation to the entire corrupt path. During this time, whoever could kill Long Qin would become the corrupt path's hero. They would gain unprecedented glory. Reporting to Lord Shui Yu, a disciple from the righteous path wants to see you. Suddenly, a corrupt disciple walked in with a strange expression. The person who had come was wearing black robes. He was wearing a helmet to cover his face, and the only thing revealed was his eyes. He clearly didn't want to reveal his identity. "Ji Changkong sent you?" asked Shuiyu. "Here is the letter." That person had only just opened his mouth when a corrupt expert smashed his fist into his chest. The sound of bones breaking rang out, and that person let out a pained grunt. "I'll give you another chance. If you don't answer to the point, you'll immediately become a corpse." "Lord Shuiyu is busy and doesn't have time to waste on you righteous idiots," raged the corrupt expert. Shuiyu didn't even look at the letter. He icily asked, "Ji Changkong sent you?" That person nodded. But he had only just nodded when he was kicked in the leg. He fell to the ground. "Are you mute?" A corrupt expert now had a saber in his hand. As long as Shuiyu nodded, he would kill this person. "Yes." The righteous expert hastily opened his mouth. A corrupt expert received the letter and handed it to Shuiyu. Shuiyu opened it and an icy smile appeared on his face. "Go back and report to Ji Changkong that I can cooperate with him. But he has to give me a third of the righteous path's heads. If he doesn't agree, then we can see just how much power he has. You can fuck off now." That person was delighted and hastily hobbled away. Having escaped with his life, he didn't have any more extravagant desires. "Lord Corrupt King, what did Ji Changkong say?" asked a rank 3 celestial. He was one of Shuiyu's trusted aides, so he dared to directly ask him this question. "Ji Changkong wants to cooperate with us. It goes without saying that the righteous path really is devious. Originally, I wasn't planning on cooperating with them. But this plan of theirs has moved me. I can't decline." Shuiyu couldn't help but sigh. "Are we really going to cooperate with them?" asked one of them with astonishment. That was something absolutely not permitted. "The cooperation is just temporary. I need to cooperate with them to get the greatest profit. As for my request for a third of their heads, that was just to make them overlook my real goal. Not one of them will be able to leave the immemorial path alive." "Did you all activate the photographic jades?" "Yes, we recorded it all. They will definitely be able to prove that Ji Changkong took the initiative to find you." But it won't be long before they reply. In fact, Ji Changkong might personally come to discuss the details. Remember to secretly record it all. For us, this cooperation is just a plan of convenience. Even if the higher-ups learn of it, it will just be some light punishment. But it's different for the righteous path. By working with us to handle Long Chen and the others, they have betrayed the righteous path. That's a grave criminal act for them. With the constant struggle between righteous sects, these photographic jades can be used to threaten Ji Changkong and make him bend to our will. If we can kill them all when our cooperation comes to an end, then it can be a gift we send to humiliate the righteous path. But if something unexpected happens and Ji Changkong manages to get away, then we can release them publicly. At that time, Ji Changkong will be attacked by the entire righteous path. I hear Ji Changkong's Ji family is quite strong. They'll definitely attempt to protect him. At that time, a huge war might erupt in the righteous path. We can take advantage of that opportunity to kill them all. Lord Shuiyu is brilliant. This way, no matter what happens, it'll be to our benefit." The corrupt experts exclaimed in admiration for his intelligence. This skill is something I learned from Ji Changkong. Right now he's smearing Long Chen's name, and he inspired me," laughed Shuiyu. "Gather all our experts. Send out my words. Those who want to go against me, Shuiyu, had better consider the consequences. Don't blame me for being merciless when the time comes." "Yes." The corrupt experts immediately left. Shuiyu looked into the distance, a faint smile on his face. "You came up with a nice plan, Ji Changkong, but you've underestimated my appetite." While Shuiyu was busy gathering his army, the entire immemorial path became extremely lively. Perhaps it was agitation from feeling one's power explosively grow, or perhaps it was that a human's desire could not be satisfied. But people were fighting everywhere. Rumbling filled the air and chi waves surged. Battlefields appeared all over the immemorial path. Whether it was the righteous path, the corrupt path, or the ancient races, countless disputes arose. That was especially true of the righteous path. Some sects already had conflicts, so now that their disciples had advanced to see expansion and felt their power grow immensely, they all thought of getting revenge for those past grievances. However, this chaotic scene only continued for a while before becoming calm. The various experts had all received invitations. These so-called invitations were a mix of the carrot and the stick. The ancient races had fewer numbers, but their quality was high. As a result, they split into several factions, each extremely powerful and prepared. Even if they didn't want to snatch the number 1 position from Yu Changhao, they wanted to prove they had the qualifications to stand on the same level as him. The corrupt path was split into 2 factions, one led by Shui Yu, the well-known veteran, and another led by an upcoming newcomer, Ka Wutu. The 2 of them seemed to be at great odds, and Ka Wutu didn't seem to fear the famous Shui Yu. The righteous path had essentially been unified. The righteous experts pretty much all accepted Ji Changkong as their leader. Other than Ji Changkong, there were 2 other rank 4 celestials. One was Zheng Mingkong from the 7-Star Gate, while the other was the Wind Champ Pavilion's genius, Fengge. But the remote Heaven Gang's power was enormous, giving Ji Changkong great influence. Even 2 of the 4 heavenly geniuses of the Shantian Dao sect had surprisingly allied themselves with Ji Changkong. To put it nicely, they were allied. But to put it frankly, they were just licking his feet. Having entered the immemorial path, their luck hadn't been very good. They hadn't obtained any heaven-defying treasures and were still simply rank 2 celestials. As for the rank 1 celestials that had survived, many of them had obtained opportunities, allowing them to advance to rank 2 celestials. So the positions of Yu Qianshan and Zhao Wuji immediately fell. It was unknown what benefits Ji Changkong had given them for them to side with him. However, it wasn't that strange. The corrupt path was so strong, the ancient races were watching like tigers, and there was also the threat of the aboriginals. Thus, working together was a good decision. As for the 7-Star Gate's Zheng Mingkong, as soon as Ji Changkong's subordinates had found him, he had immediately agreed to join him. But what Ji Changkong hadn't expected was that Wind Champ Pavilion's Fengge had immediately refused. He had even openly expressed that in this world, the only person worthy of him following was Long Chen. That infuriated Ji Changkong. But the situation was too unstable right now, so he didn't dare to make any big moves. He could only endure for now, but he had already placed Fengge on his must-kill list. The thing that the righteous disciples were somewhat unable to accept was that soaring Long Chen had actually become a traitor of the righteous path. Disciples from the same sect as him were personally accusing him of colluding with the aboriginals to harm his fellow righteous disciples. Unable to bear staying on the same side as such a person, they had formed an alliance with Ji Changkong to find and punish Long Chen, to get justice for all the righteous disciples who had fallen because of him. Many people had refused to believe it at the beginning, but when many resolute people shouted something loud enough, it was enough to obscure the truth. Many people started to form doubts. Then, Long Chen refused to reveal himself, and no explanation came from him. That made Ji Changkong's influence even greater, allowing him to unite essentially all the righteous disciples, making him the number 1 expert of the righteous path. People were like ducks. True or false weren't so important. In the end, those who joined Ji Changkong's side gave up their doubts and began to echo their peers, starting a snowball effect. From their point of view, standing by Ji Changkong's side could protect them. As long as he provided safety, he could say whatever he wanted. The truth wasn't important. The important thing was that as long as they were obedient, they could join this enormous army. As for whether or not Long Chen had been falsely accused, they couldn't be bothered to care. There were so many righteous experts that it even exceeded Ji Changkong's expectations. There were actually 30,000 of them that joined his side, and more were coming. However, then Ji Changkong recalled that of the 2 large entrances to the immemorial path from the eastern wasteland, their entrance had only been for sects that were comparatively higher in status. But the other entrance had no such restrictions. He hadn't expected so many new celestials to have appeared in the eastern wasteland. It seemed that they came from smaller sects that had entered from the other entrance. The fact that he had tens of thousands of experts made Ji Changkong incomparably excited. His vanity was completely satisfied. He had actually become the leader of such a powerful army. Although the majority of them were just rank 1 Celestials, with only a 10th being rank 2 Celestials and less than a 100th being rank 3 Celestials, these numbers made him completely confident. Time passed day by day. The immemorial path had gone from peaceful to chaotic, and then back to peaceful. But the undercurrents of this peace were extremely grave. It was the calm before the storm. Long Chen was still in seclusion. Meng Qi had already come out, as she had long since reached the first heaven stage. Her Qi Si had been expanded by a full 10%. During this time, she had been nourishing the soul items that Long Chen had given her. The item nourishing technique he gave her came from the Eastern Wasteland Bell, and it was incomparably refined. It allowed a person to form a practically perfect connection with an item spirit, allowing them to release the greatest power from a treasure item. Sister Meng Qi. Suddenly, a golden armored monstrosity appeared in the sky and landed in the ruins. Has everyone been well? Is there any news? Asked Meng Qi. Guo Ran was their messenger and information gatherer. His armor had already been completely remade, allowing his speed to reach a new level. Everyone's fine. They don't have anything important to do now, just focusing on nourishing their treasure items. As for the outside world, the ancient races and corrupt path are rather calm. Only the righteous path is like a pack of idiots, continuously smearing boss. That Ji Changkong really is an idiot. He's like a shrew screaming on the streets. Then there are those shameless fellows who clearly know boss was falsely accused but still can blindly spout those lies without blinking. It's infuriating, raged Guo Ran. Let them do as they please. They're only doing that for their own protection. Is there any other news? Asked Meng Qi, indifferent to their actions. There was one laughable thing. I heard that Ji Changkong captured Long Chen and is going to execute him at Drake Mountain. What a joke. Tell me, don't you think they're idiots? Sister Meng Qi, what is it? Guo Ran had been laughing when he suddenly realized something was off. Meng Qi's expression was grave now. Perhaps there's trouble now, said Meng Qi solemnly. She formed some hand seals. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.